All right. Testing to see. It looks like it worked. We are live. Okay, folks. Not that anyone out there in the world would know this, but we have overcome a sudden streak of technical difficulties entirely on my part. And we're going to be able to provide some POV streaming coverage of Heroin to Birds, Heidi Robertson. And I have a great pleasure of being joined by Adam Logan. Adam, thank you very much for hopping aboard with me and for your patience as we get up and running as Noah playing Chi. We're still in the early going here in round 5.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I would have liked to travel to this tournament myself, and it's not very far from where I live in Montreal, but I thought that with the Albany tournament coming up in the match with Nigel, it just would be a little bit too much all at once.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can get into during any break in the action here, because this is just a palate. I don't want to say cleanser. It's just like this is an appetizer, let's say, to the feast of Scrabble that is about to hit in Albany. And none could say that you and Nigel aren't the ones that are going to be oh, look at that, slushed, very nice. I actually did not see that
Yeah,
available to her, so good job. 85 pointer. That's gonna be a great start. So Heidi's 1-3, and that one win was actually a bye, but she's going up against Noah, who is in first place in the standings. So not only will we be rooting for her, we're watching her POV, but everyone else in the tournament will be as well, as he is the sole undefeated player. First morning of play at the Canada Day tournament. But the Albany tournament is going to be crazy. I'm pretty sure most of the players at this event are likely to be there as well, competing in one of the strongest fields that I can remember in recent memory. And yeah, Adam, you have the unique and amazing privilege to get to participate in a match with the great one, as you did in Ghana in 2025.
mhm. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, though with some apprehension, of course.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary prospect to go up against Nigel, but you've already done so successfully. And if anyone, if I could nominate anyone to hold up in a very strong, in a very well in a long match against Nigel, um, it's basically you or David Eldar, and the drop off from there is relatively steep. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm sure for you as a player, it's a unique opportunity, but for all of us watching, it's going to be a real treat. So yeah. So preserving your stamina, not not attending this tournament, but we can still get a taste of the action here following along, thanks to Heidi setting up all her cameras and whatnot. So it is a lot on her part to get set up. So if you're out there enjoying and watching, um, definitely put some thanks and good vibes for her in the chat, which we'll pass along to her in between rounds. So yeah, off to a good start. There we go. We see her next set of tiles. Adam, what do you think here? This is kind of a weird. This could be a challenging turn for her.
Yeah, I mean, she does actually have a couple of quite high scoring plays. I mean, she could play, for example, I mean, obviously everything depends on what Noah does in the meantime. But for example, she could play Hoha through the H and Slushed, which would score very well in 36. And Hoha, by the way, does not take an S. And of course, the downside of that is it does keep 2 I's, which is less than ideal. The B is not great either. Another possibility that comes to mind is she could play Beastie, Bhisti, through the first S of Flushed. So that's the same 36 points. The leave is AO, which again is not my favorite leave, but it still might be better than BIIT.
Yeah, this would be a very, very impressive find. I feel like as we see Fatty, oh, this does change the
Mhm.
complexion of the position quite a bit, with now an additional triple lane open on the right-hand side of the board. Put that in for Noah, a very solid 42 points for him. But yeah, now an additional lane to consider for her. I think a play like Bisty still looks very good, but that is a
Yeah,
tough find. I think there are some more reasonable plays that she may be able to spot here that don't require her to know somewhat of a relatively low probability 6 letter word. So that's always the trick is, you know, are you going to be fortunate to be in a position where most of your candidate options are relatively findable, or are you going to get one of those games where you're going to have to go deep into your word study reserves to find the best plays? I feel like I do have confidence that if she saw Bishti, she would consider it. But I wonder, I think we're going to see Bayata, which looks like a
yeah,
reasonable option to me, Adam.
yeah. I mean, certainly, to leave H high seems quite reasonable. It does block that dangerous right-hand column without creating any new openings. And given that Heidi is ahead, she might not want to leave an easy spot for high-scoring bingos.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Much more flexible of a lane if you're going to pick between those two open triples to use. Picking
Yeah,
the one that she did, it's so much easier to play bingos ending in many of the, certainly the A and the E. Those are the vowels that you're most concerned about, but also ED, ER, those suffixes all play on the right, whereas this spot is really not even that good to score with. The S is in kind of an awkward spot, Adam, to do too much with it.
yeah, exactly. It's not so easy, although it's not so easy to put a high-scoring tile in a double letter score in front of the S. I mean, there are ways to do it, but it's not as easy, if certainly nowhere near as easy as if there were a vowel there, or even something like an L or an R. Um, the other point that I might want to make, so usually when sometimes I will rationalize something to myself. I'll say, I'm not so worried about the possibility that Noah would play a bingo ending in an A or an E on the right-hand column because such a bingo would play with the hook on flushed. But here, we don't necessarily have such a rationalization quite as much because ER and ED ending bingos would not might very well not play anywhere on the board at all after Heidi's play of Iota, and so it really has a strong defensive value.
Yeah, that's a great point. I try to apply that principle sometimes in my own games when I'm assessing the risk of opening a new spot. Does it create
Mhm.
something entirely new, or does it just make bingos hit a little bit harder? So, to your point, it's a really good point. A bingo ending in E is still going to score pretty well here. You're not making it that much worse in this spot. But as Adam is saying, the ER and ED plays do not fit here, whereas they do fit on the right. So that's an interesting principle. And meanwhile, we can rejoice because with a almost 100-point lead, Heidi drawing the first blank and the X, definitely could imagine some situations where a 1-2 punch of playing the X somewhere and then playing a bingo is going to put her even further ahead. So I guess we'll wait to see what Noah does. He could change the complexion of the game with a bingo. And okay, weenie, that's
Bada
not
bingo.
so bad. Yeah, it looked like a lot of letters were coming out at him, but this is okay if you're Heidi.
Yeah, and notice that, for example, Noah would have scored, I guess, 32 for this instead of 25 on the right. So by blocking with Biota, Heidi did do herself some good. It looks like she's challenging.
Yeah, there's a lot of variations of either this or wiener that you have to think about all the different variants. This is the one where if you put an S on it, it's only spelt this way, and then ice wine is the other anagram.
Hmm.
But there are some other variations of this where I think it's very reasonable to go ahead, give it an extra 5 points if you are not fully sure of it. I actually have to make sure that I know how to. Okay, I know how to do that. Challenge. Wow, Woogles is really slick with that. So I think I've successfully given yep, I got the 5 points in there. So Noah now has 115. But yeah, this, we were mentioning the 1-2 punch at him. This makes a
Yeah,
great
this
spot for
definitely. Yeah.
the X. It shouldn't take her too much time.
And I realize it's not her focus, but I might point out that Noah could actually have scored 14 more points by playing Newsy through the S of Slushed, which is one of those ways to put a high point constant on a double letter square. he would have kept the I. Perhaps if he was keeping the U, U with his play of weenie or a third I, then he might have been reluctant to do so. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know what he kept, but it's something to think about. But I don't think it's going to affect Heidi's decision very much. Noah did just get 6 tiles, as Rex pretty much meant.
Yeah, I would potentially chalk that up less to rack management and more to potentially being unsure of Newsy with the IE spelling as opposed to just the Y, which is probably likelier to
Mhm.
be spotted in general. Obviously, a 5 letter word is in general going to be a little likelier to be seen than a six much of the time in a vacuum. But yeah, you would certainly see that five played a bit and maybe some confusion or uncertainty in the IE. Meanwhile, we see Hex. This looks 100% correct,
Yeah,
leaving
yeah,
EIT blank. She's got great chances of bingoing soon, Adam.
yeah. I think one might at least think about the possibility of holding on to the H um, to create another nice bingo line for herself. Since at the moment there aren't really very many bingo lines on this board. You can of course hook IO, but that might require using the blank as one particular tile. Um, and on the other hand, after if I had just played X, then it would create a bingo line that is difficult to score on if you don't bingo. You can't score very much with this. You're not likely to score very much with this, just those double letter scores. Against that, of course, you are giving up 8 points, which is probably not worth it. But I think it's something you should at least consider.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Holding the H back, you just imagine that to not be on the board. So many of the bingos you'd be likely to draw will play there. But yeah, the 8 extra points, and also the fact that she is the one winning by a pretty solid amount.
Mhm.
Potentially, even though she knows that with blank in hand, having good bingo lanes available benefit her in the short term, this could be also a good defensive option just in case Noah
Yeah.
has a bingo himself that ends in a D or R, or certainly the S would, as we were talking about before, play in multiple spots.
Hmm.
But yeah, a little more flexibility. And she, with those, I believe it was Twitch viewer Brentus Firmus. These are 3D printed tiles that she got from a Twitch viewer. You see
Oh.
the symbol there of the yin and the yang.
Mhm.
She's not going to have very many options on. Obviously, we have to wait and see how the board looks for her, but she does have one playable word, which I do feel like she has a good chance of seeing here, Adam.
Yeah. Right. So it hasn't actually come to me yet.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, yeah,
I'm using the analyzer, so let me just
yeah.
I'll just share it for you so you can see
Oh yes, of course. Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. That's
So
it. Yeah.
you
I just
have
have to get.
to, yeah, not only see this very high probability Collins only bingo, but it's trickier than usual to see it with the blank. And I would say most of all,
Mhm.
the tricky thing is to realize that the ISO hook is even a spot where you could consider bingoing. This is not
Right.
where my eye is drawn, Adam, and we'll just have to see
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
she's able to make that tricky play.
Yeah. It does. It would create some openings for Noah, but I think that looking at, I did notice ROHE for 27 keeping a very strong EIT blank. Um, oh, looks like
Well,
Heidi will now have a somewhat easier choice.
things just got much easier. Yeah, talk about that, Adam.
Yeah. So Noah has played Pam here, and that does in fact take an S in front to make spam, and Heidi can certainly play Aerotize there. Now you might notice that Noah could also have played Map, and again we don't know what he has. Um, but for example, Noah at this point, considering how far behind he is, he might even have been setting this spot up for himself even without holding an S or blank. I think at this point, looking at this, as you were just saying, this rather difficult board, I think that Noah has to realize that he's in quite a difficult situation.
Yeah, it is a
But
really interesting question of does he have to have an S when he makes this play? I think you're totally right that the answer could be no, he doesn't necessarily have one, and he's banking that he needs to create some volatility for later. But it is a moot point, as you suggest, as Eratize is going to make her decision way easier, and she will not have to incur the risk of Eterio making a very nice snapback opportunity some of the time. That is no longer an issue with this play. This is definitely the right idea. So, pretty solid game that she's playing here against the top seed. And yeah, Adam,
Absolutely.
you as a longtime member of the Ottawa club, you must have played many, many games with Noah and probably gotten to watch his very quick and at least initially, but then steady after that improvement to really be one of the top
Hmm.
players in Canada and by extension North America.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a great pleasure watching him get better, and now seeing him just so powerfully and confidently winning in the Montreal tournament just a couple of months ago or last month, I guess. That's very it's very inspiring to watch people get better like that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, and a alum of School Scrabble as well, which is,
Mm.
increasingly, I feel like we are seeing a steady trickle of top School Scrabble players sticking with the game and turning into the elite players of not even tomorrow, pretty much just today. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, we see ING. That's pretty good. Ooh, I hope this I don't believe is valid. What she has lined up, but it could
No,
be
I'm
tempting to
pretty sure.
try. I hope she doesn't pull the trigger on that because it could be tempting. But overall, this is ultimately it's nice to see ING, but this is kind of a rack where maybe she would have wanted to see some of the higher scoring tiles to help her continue to add scoring pressure with such a good lead already. I feel like these sorts of racks that are kind of close to bingoing, but not quite there. Sometimes these are the ways that your opponent can sort of get back into the game if you fish too much and groom towards that next bingo, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I'm just trying to come up with some options here. So, for example, I mean, as you point out, tating is not actually valid, but fortunately, there doesn't seem to be a spot for it at the moment, so I don't think she would be tempted. I mean, if you want to fish, you might try something. If you want to fish, you certainly want to play the tiles I and T, and there is a place to do so for 14 points. Namely, you play TI next to the IA of Meow. The problem with that is that it certainly does create a bingo line, since you can of course hook it with an S, but you might be very reluctant to do that because you still are not going to be able to, where you're going to play your ING bingo on the next turn. And so Noah now has made definitely a board opening play here with Elk. I mean, last turn when he played Pam, I think we were uncertain, but Elk definitely does look to me like he must have an S.
Yeah, this definitely
Yeah.
a stronger signal. Two straight plays that certainly look like an S setup. Again, it's not a
Yeah.
lock as it. I think in a closer game, it would certainly be close to a
Hmm.
lock that you could just bank on Noah having that S. But even now, I think the odds are much likelier because there are probably ways that he could have scored with that K somewhere a little bit better. I'm not exactly sure where that
Yeah.
is, but it just feels like the odds are pretty good that he could have gotten more points. But this would make a lot of sense with an S in reserve. And it's kind of a difficult,
Hmm.
it's not the easiest opening for Heidi to deal with. There is a play. If I'll put up the analyzer on screen here, Adam, I feel like this play here of is it, if you
Yeah.
think
I
about
was thinking of
this,
that. Yes.
this looks like a really nice adjustment to make given the likelihood of that S on Noah's rack.
Yeah, and one thing that's important to point out here is that with Fatty on the board, it's not possible to start a bingo from the T and play over to the right-hand triple word score. If that were the case, then you'd be getting rid of one dangerous opening, but you'd be creating another one that you might have to basically waste a turn to block. But as it is, I like the suggestion of playing is it, since there isn't it doesn't seem to be all that much for Heidi to do otherwise. I mean, as we were saying, as we were saying, like she could play it. Um, I mean, okay, so it's true. So where I pointed out TI, so that's the second play that Will has highlighted here, that you could play it one space below, and that wouldn't create any openings. But under the circumstances, I see Heidi has now played is it,
Nice
and
work.
I completely agree that blocking that is worth 3 points. And maybe Noah will open some more flexible opening, and this leave of AGI and T will come in handy.
Yeah, I think that was a really good play by Heidi there
Yeah, I agree
to
absolutely.
respond to that hook, keep a good leave, and as you suggested, Adam, fatty the Y on that bottom part of the board does prevent any of those nasty potential bingos that could go across. That was a good observation. It really leaves that bottom row so much more difficult to use, which is a great, great thing.
Mhm.
Reasoning that Noah is likely to have the second blank or the one of the two S's, I suppose. There's only two
Yeah.
on the board. So, yeah, great play. Let's see how Noah responds. Ovum, it should be noted. Maybe that's sort of a given for us as tournament players. We've seen Ovum on boards so many times because it is one of those rare words that contain a V and a U together, two of the worst tiles in terms of their synergy in the game of Scrabble.
Mhm.
But it looks like a great S hook is available here, but this is not a valid word. Only ova is the plural. Oh, but we are going to see a bingo. Wow, an S and the second blank. Adam, if Noah's going to
Yeah.
have either one of those, it's somewhat of a relief that he has both of them at the same time here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you always worry. I mean, certainly when I'm way ahead, I'm always a little bit, and there are blanks and S's unseen. I'm always a little bit troubled when I see my opponent playing a bingo that doesn't use any blanks or S's because I know that they could then pick up they could pick them up on their next draw, and then they would have a good chance of another bingo. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely something of a relief for Heidi, although of course you'd rather that Noah hadn't bingoed. No, it is given that he does. It's better that he does so using an S and a blank. And also notice the effect of Heidi's play is it. Noah would have had vesting on the bottom row for 97, which so again, Heidi saved herself some points.
Yeah, really, really good point. So this bingo is going to score 80, but as Adam points out, vesting here would have been significantly higher scoring. So saving herself quite a bit on the scoreboard. And you could see after challenging the word, Heidi gives it 5 extra just to make absolutely sure. But that, whatever, 17 points ish, 15 plus points feels like a very significant extra amount because if Noah bingos again, Heidi should still be in decent position in the game. She's up by enough that even another bingo from Noah is not necessarily going to deliver him the lead unless it is a really, really big one. So, yeah, nice play. That saves her quite a bit. And now she's got I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would want to see her try to score as much as possible here. The V
Hmm.
of Venites, which is slightly cut off, I could draw it. Maybe I'm not sure that's helpful. My little V at the top of the board there. But I'm not sure I would want to overreact to trying to block that V, especially with the consonant heavy rack that Heidi has right now.
Right. I mean, you use overreact, and of course, what that might make a person think of is that one of the easiest ways to use the B in the second space is with the prefix over, and there are lots of E's, O's, and R's left. All the same, I would say that it's still not so late in the game. I mean, I haven't checked the computer, but the two plays that come to my mind would be either Avid, which would block the top, but that's somewhat risky, I think, because you're holding on to 4 consonants and the bag is a little bit consonant heavy. So you do run a non-trivial risk of having a 7 consonant rack on the next turn, which could really cause trouble. The other play that I noticed was WADD, using the W of meows and the D of fatty. And that scores 1 more point, but it doesn't block the V, but it does at least keep a vowel. And so I think that Heidi may, from the way she set up her rack, she may have noticed that if that QI were not there, she could play redacting on the 6th row of the
Oh,
board. But unfortunately, that's not going to help her here.
that is tantalizing. She had it spelled out a moment ago, so indicating that she did, in fact, know if this QI were just somehow out of the picture, we would be seeing a lovely 9 letter bingo. Unfortunately, that is not to be. I think your suggestion of Avid does make sense. I do agree, though, that there is that risk with this slightly consonant heavy bag that you run into some trouble in the future. I'll just put up the little analyzer here so we can look at some of the top equity plays. We shouldn't really overly emphasize these plays because, again, this is just a measure of how well the play scores and how good in a vacuum are the tiles left over, as we are going to see her play Avid, which looks like a very logical choice. The other possibility that's top ranked by a solid amount would be to play wad here, which scores a deceptively solid 31 points and leaves the ING combination on her rack for next turn. That being said, I think Avid is a very human and logical play for her to make, Adam.
Yeah, and I think that the equity analysis, the static equity analysis here substantially overrates the value of GINT. A lot of the value of such a rack comes from the possibility of playing an ING bingo, and as as you've seen over the last 2 turns, this is not the sort of board where you can easily do that. So I feel that WADD is not as good as the computer says. I did notice in that window the possibility of playing Dicta, hooking onto AB. And on the one hand, it does create some bingo space that Noah could use, but on the other hand, using 5 tiles, it does shorten the game. It does help you get to the end before anything too bad happens. So I'm not sure what I've done. I think that as you say, the play of Avid does make a lot of sense, and I'm certainly not against it.
Yeah, agree with all of that analysis. Dicta, of course, cleaning up the rack much better, but as you say, putting some tiles into space, which she could regret. This does look like a very difficult board to bingo on after Avid. So if Heidi is really putting all of her eggs in that bingo prevention basket, it's going to be quite tough. There's one S remaining and no really obvious good S hook left on this board. There are some kind of scary combinations of tiles, in particular the 5 R's unseen to Heidi, none of which. Oh, look at that. So no,
okay.
this is a bad case scenario, I would say, for Heidi here.
Yeah.
Has a nice bingo by Noah of Enanter for 68. Doesn't even use the S or Z or any of that good stuff, and it gets him much, much closer on the scoreboard. So all of a sudden, it's a bit of a gut check moment with not very good tiles on the rack, Adam. 2 C's and 2 G's.
Yes, well, Heidi can, of course, congratulate herself on playing Avid, since Noah would have had a much better option 2 rows higher if Heidi had left it for him.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's a really, really good point. Oh my gosh. So yeah, she should be happy to have blocked off that V in the nick of time. So yeah, Aventure, I think. Just wait, is that
Yeah.
how you, yeah, so that would have been a devastating way to lose one's grip on this game. But this is still way too close for comfort. I think in general, you would want to try to play through this R, but she has absolutely terrible options that do that. I'm not even sure. Cert for 21, leaving
Yeah.
CGGN, if that's the best that you can do. Yeah, that's going to be
Well, yeah.
tough.
I think I might prefer just to play GERT, which I believe does not take an S. Um,
Oh, good point. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That makes
yeah.
sense.
I mean, the 2 C's versus the 2 G's, they're both a little bit painful to hold on to. But I mean, as you're saying about playing through, I definitely feel like that's the right approach. Even though Heidi's rack is quite difficult, she is still ahead by 36 points, and if she gets another 18 at the top, she'll be ahead by 54 and now there will not be a lot of great scoring spots for Noah to use. Whereas if she tries to exchange, and okay, maybe Noah, well, I mean, a really bad case would be if Noah uses the Z on that triple word score. But even if he just manages to put the F or the Y in the double letter square, that should make the score even. And Heidi would, well, of course, Heidi might have a good play in her next turn, but she might not.
Yeah, it's worth noting
Oh.
too that we haven't talked about it in several turns, Adam. But okay, Cert is the play. This seems reasonable. I like your
Mhm.
suggestion of playing Gert there as well. But this makes some sense. I'm curious to see, will either player know the Y hook on that? But I just wanted to
Oh
point
yes,
out
yes, indeed.
that the ZS combination, all of a sudden, we had sort of dismissed the bottom row of the board as being relevant at any
Mhm.
point, but it's now relevant again. You're able to get a ZS play that's going to hit harder than most bingos. So that is looming as a
Yeah.
threat that Heidi has to deal with as well. Give her the points for cert. And now we just sort of wait. This is kind of the fun of a POV stream like this. We get to sort of sweat and pray
Mhm.
that we do not see one of those big ZS plays in the lower corner, which would be a very tough pill to swallow here.
Now, fortunately, Heidi has just picked the S, so that's no longer something that she needs to worry about. And also, she doesn't have to worry about an S hook on cert. Going back to a previous play, one thing that I now find myself wondering a little bit about is the possibility of playing IGG on the fourth row using the Eye of Vanites. I mean, it doesn't block the top right, but CCENT, well, it's not exactly my favorite leave or anything, but it's certainly a lot more tractable than CGGM.
That's an
So
interesting
it
point.
has
Yeah, I like it.
it scores I guess 2 fewer points than cert, and it does have a defense. It does have definite defensive disadvantages though, and it leaves So Heidi's play of cert blocked a lot of bingos that would hook onto a noncher, and if she played ig as I suggested, it would also create an S hook. So it's very difficult to know how to balance these issues. You know, Still, I'd rather be ahead by 36 on such a turn than behind by 36.
Yeah, for sure. It is those plays are very difficult to evaluate because you're sort of weighing these very, very different factors in terms
Mhm.
of, do I leave myself more flexibility for the next turn by keeping my lone vowel and dumping those toxic G's, which again, they cannot improve to the ING combination. There are no more I's to draw. So
Good point. Yeah.
the GN combination gets significantly worse in a vacuum. It has some value because of the way it meshes well with eyes. Can't get that benefit here. So getting rid of them is really improving your flexibility quite a bit. But you have this totally separate goal of stopping bingos and preventing good scoring plays. Okay, Gazy, that is not the best thing to see the Z go down for a good score, but it could be worse, Adam. I feel like with that last S on her rack, she no longer has to worry about big Elks plays. In fact, she can be the one to realize that spot only benefits her right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That not having to worry about the bottom row definitely does take something off her mind. And also, I guess there's still a few marginal bingo lines that Noah could hit, but it's not going to be easy for him to catch up that way. But I think what Heidi needs to worry about now is she needs to try to improve her rack so that she doesn't have to make a succession of low scoring plays from rack with a lot of constants.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if you can block some of those bingo lines, that might be uh, something worth trying as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
I'm just noting really quickly as well that Gazy would have played for 3 more points with Surti as well. Those 3 points in
Yeah.
an increasingly close game could be relevant, as you see the score nodding up quite a bit. But I didn't mean to interrupt you there. As Heidi looks to clean this clunk as fast as possible off the
Yeah.
rack.
So I wouldn't have thought of this during the game, I think, but I wonder if Noah's idea with playing Gazy where he did was to set his F up for FY or something like that. If next turn if he has, for example, FURR, that would be a wonderful way of scoring points and cleaning his rack. So for Heidi, I find myself looking at I definitely want to use those G's, at least one of them, and I want to use one of those N's as well. So I wonder about playing something like NOGG parallel to Biota.
Yeah.
Since that would score decently, it wouldn't open up anything much. And yeah, I did notice the possibility of playing it with NY as well. That has the slight disadvantage of creating some opening above it. For example, Noah could have something like, I guess, FAP or FOP um, above the NO, which would score well. But I definitely, yeah. So yeah, you've gone Nog there, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the play Adam suggesting just Nog here, which gives very, very little back and blunts a lot of the danger of the Phi hook by forcing Noah to have to essentially play into this N if he wants to play any tiles. Something like FURR, as you suggested a moment ago, Adam, that looks like a very, very likely optimal play given a lot of the racks that Noah is likely to have with those 4 unseen Rs. So putting the N there, you're only looking at just playing burn basically there, which would be a huge equity gap between that and fur. So yeah, and by playing something like Nog, oh, okay. Oh, just the okay. She's debating. She's probably debating the validity of this, maybe not realizing
Yeah.
that this takes the second G, which would go a long way to drawing those vowels that she might need. Okay, she's
Mm.
going to play in go elsewhere. This scores decently well,
Yeah.
Adam. 20 points.
Yeah.
It's about the same as Nog.
Yeah. It's about the same as Nog. I mean, I guess, and I think it's not at all a bad play. I mean, it does block a somewhat marginal bingo line through the N. I guess my hesitation again is, it's keeping four constants instead of three. And of course, the fourth draw might not be a vowel, but it might be. So you have to give yourself these chances. But no, I think Ingo is a very respectful play. I would have preferred Nog, but this is where we are now.
Yeah, the tricky thing here, as we can see, she did get the 1E on the rack there, but imagine now if I could give you this option, Adam. What if I told you
Mhm.
you could take that G and have a 7 out of 18 chance of converting it into a vowel? You would take that deal every time here, right? So this is the sort
Yes,
of
absolutely.
yeah, this is what we're thinking about with maybe Nog, right, being potentially a
Mhm.
little bit better in this particular case, but also in the general case, because you run into these situations where you're desperate for a second vowel.
Exactly. Yeah, and like if Heidi had another vowel, then she would have a powerful scoring play in the bottom left. And unless Noah can manage to put together a bingo, that would surely end the game. But as it is, I think that she's going to be. I mean, she's not going to be stuck on her next turn. She has things like beg with knob or beg with buy if that spot stays open, or something like Gleeby would be a good way to block the top. But yeah, she's not going to have such a strong play as she would if she had happened to pick a vowel.
Yeah, for sure. So will we see Fur as was suggested? Could Daisy in this spot? Oh, we are going to see Wad. So Noah's playing it
Mm-hmm.
slow, potentially grabbing 30 points. And again, putting the onus on Heidi to come up with some kind of a decent scoring play of her own. Maybe Noah is slowly but surely grinding his way towards having a bingo from the sea of cert. That could be, I mean, it's going to be really difficult to block that, which is why
Yeah,
Glebe stands out. You mentioned
yeah,
it just a moment ago as a really, really nice option here if she's confident in that word. Wouldn't say it's the most normal word, but that play does a lot of good things for her here.
right. One other thing that I should mention here, I think, is that Noah is also looking at the tile tracking. He knows that there is this wall of R's coming, and if he had absolutely, if he had two of them, he absolutely would have played Ward instead of Wad. And even if he had one of them, I think that under the circumstances, he would at least have considered sacrificing 3 points to get rid of it.
Really interesting point. Yeah, you would see Ward a lot of the time here to ward off the onslaught of
Mm-hmm.
R's that are coming. So yeah, I would think if you're Heidi and you're attuned to that, she's actually doing quite well on the clock, I would say. She's up about 5
Mm-hmm.
minutes compared to Noah, who has had to really grind to get his way back into this game. And you see he's done a great job of that, only down by 5 plus whatever Heidi scores here. But yeah, this is a nuance that, as you suggest, Heidi can expect R's a lot of the time here. And she's going to play Beg, which is a solid option, scoring 26 points, but it doesn't get in the way of the C and E of cert the way Glebe would have done and turn an extra tile. So a tiny little
Yeah.
nuance here. This is by no means a big mistake or anything of the sort, but let's see what she draws. It's going to loom large. I really hope we don't see RRR here.
That should be very sad, yes. Oh, good. Oh, yeah.
All
Okay, well,
right.
she got an R. That's good. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh,
OOR
that's a great
is
draw.
yeah, you can live with that. You can definitely live with that. So,
Yeah.
that I don't know whether she knows the bingo of and colors off of
Mm-hmm.
the E of cert. If she does, that's going to be pretty much game over. Even if not, that
Yeah.
draw allowing her to play stuff in the lower left corner that should outscore anything Noah can do other than a bingo. She's going to be in good shape after those two O's. So
Yeah.
she
And
may
looking
yet
at
hold
these
on.
unseen, yeah, sorry. Yeah, looking at these unseen tiles, it seems to me to be very difficult for Noah to use the E or the F or the C rather for a bingo.
Yeah. Is there
Um,
even, that's a good point. I'm not even
trying to come up
seeing
with anything, and
anything.
I'm not seeing it immediately.
Yeah. That's a pretty good sign that there's nothing that easy there if we're not spotting it too
Hmm.
quickly. The two of us together, I would hope, could find something. So this looks
Yeah,
good. So it looks like we potentially are going to see the upset in terms of Heidi, one of the lower seeds in this very, very tough Collins division. You guys really have a lot of good competition in the in the I guess greater Ottawa. I guess I don't want to lump Toronto in there, but in the sort of
that's a
nexus
stretch.
between those areas, you got a lot of good players coming to these, even just 1 day or weekend long events. So
Yeah. So for the record, for people who may not be so familiar with the geography, from Ottawa to Toronto is farther than, let's say, from New York to Boston. So it's not just a casual hop. On the other hand, from Ottawa to Montreal, where I am now, is only a 2-hour drive. It's still a little bit far to go for a
oh,
club
that's what I meant.
meeting,
That's what
but
I
you can
meant.
certainly go for, yeah,
Sorry, that was a total dumb American fail. I meant Montreal. I'm not sure why that didn't occur to me. So yes, so appreciate that. As we do see Furl, this definitely gets things really, really close, but it does empty the bag, and I do feel like we are
hmm,
likely to see any kind of Elks hooking play should be enough here, just by nature of scoring well, using up a lot of tiles. If she knows in colors, then she's going to go out with a bang here to finish this off. But I don't believe it's necessary for her to wrap up the win.
yeah, that's exactly right. And Heidi has, if Heidi knows in colors, great. But if not, then I'm sure that she will see one of her several 6-letter words that would play at the bottom, and then she'll be fine. Um, I guess even if somehow, it looks to me like even if she plays Orlons, she would still be all right because she would still have 2 places for the C. But I'm sure that she wouldn't do that. And okay, here she set up colors. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
just
looks like the game.
take that N and put it at the beginning and play off that E. Um, I think if you're even remotely unsure of that, there's no reason to risk a stone cold winning position on it. So yeah, I think we're going to see
Exactly right.
colors in the lower corner here. There we go. Nice work. I don't even really know what with Noah's rack of AENPRR. I'm not sure exactly what he's even threatening. Maybe now just overlaps on top of colors, which aren't even going to be remotely enough to secure him the win. So
Yeah.
nice win. Nice win. So we did not bring you the morning games for all the Harrow into Birds viewers out there. But we're happy. Adam and I are planning to be here for my computer crashed minutes before this game started, but I was able to get back up and running, and knock on wood, we're going to be here for this is game one, and then the next 3 games of the afternoon after that. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're starting off with a win, Adam. Nice work to Heidi.
Yeah. No, this has been a very well played game. I think. There were a few things that might perhaps have been done differently, but mostly she found the place that she needed, and she's being duly rewarded.
Yeah, I think Is It was one of these plays where it is sort of a
Mhm.
misconception sometimes when you see tournament Scrabble being played at a very high level. You see the long words and you just see, wow, these look absolutely insane. How does anyone ever learn to find these? But actually, those, as you get more and more experienced, become the least interesting plays, in the sense of I see them
Mhm.
and I play them. There's not a lot to think about, but finding a play like Is It is off the beaten path. A lot of players would maybe have tunnel visioned into playing alongside Meows and keep that nice ing leave. But she made a great play that saved her. And look at the score, Adam. It saved her about 15 odd points. She's not going to win
Yeah,
by much more than that in this game.
exactly. Yeah. Well, and of course, of course, it's easy to ruminate about what might have happened and how things would have been different. But if Noah had played in that bottom center area, then colors wouldn't have existed, and who knows what would have happened. And of course, it would have been a different game. You can't just say, "Oh well, everything would have been the same," and then Heidi wouldn't have had colors.
Yeah, for sure. The butterfly effect is definitely real here. So, all right, a
Yeah.
final score of 464 to 438. I actually don't exactly know how to save this here, but I guess I can export it as a GCG. Maybe we'll have it for posterity. I'm not sure if it's just gonna exist on the Woogles tournament page, but Heidi will have the opportunity if she wants to. Oh, I think I can actually I can do this so that the stream can hear it, Adam. I'm not sure you'll be able to hear it,
Mhm.
but I can actually let the audience hear
It seems like a word.
what they're saying. So I'll turn that on and I'll let you know if they say anything interesting here. As they, oh, she's going to join us. She's going to hop into the control room and talk to
Oh,
us
it
here.
is.
So
It is?
she'll be with us in just a moment. Talk through this one, and I'm going to continue to see how to make sure this game gets saved. Does it get saved? I'm not sure, but either way. So we can peek ahead. The tournament structure is that I think this is a 14 or 15 game tournament, and they start with an 8 game round robin. I think there are 9 players in their division, so everybody's going to play everybody else once. So that makes our life easier today, as we don't have to think or wait for pairings. And we know that she's going to be facing Jason Broersma in the next game, Adam, which is going to be another close contest. Even the
Indeed.
seeds that are lower down in the ranking in this division are still very, very capable players. So it's kind of a murderer's row for for a local tournament here.
Yeah, no, it's a very strong event, as you say. You know, a lot of top players, and no pushovers.
So that's going to be a win for her. And just looking over the rest of the standings, which I actually have, I was going to try to get those in a state where I could show everybody the standings. Okay, I see. Yes, thanks the incredible Z. The game auto saves. I see it's on the tournament page now, so that's cool. I don't have to think about that. So it's a really nice system that's going to save all the games for posterity. So looking ahead beyond Jason in the next round, she will then be playing Shafiq Thilbani in round 7 and wrapping up the day with Josh Sokol. So that's going to be fun. So some good players. Shafiq is an interesting case, Adam, because I often have thought enviously of the Ottawa Scrabble Club, and then all of a sudden a new player emerges, and I'm like, all right, I don't know who this guy is, and then I look and see that he's placed top 10 at the World Championship in the 90s. Amazing players coming out of the woodwork to join OSC.
Yeah. No, it was a complete surprise to me. You know, I remembered playing him actually in the World Championship in London, I think, and maybe also in New York in 1993, I think. And then I asked him, you know, he showed up once, and I recognized him from all those years. And you know, I said, you know, how long are you going to be in Ottawa? And he said, oh, I've been living in here for 6 years. I moved to Mississauga 20 years ago, and then I moved to Ottawa in 2000, whatever it was, 18 or 19 or something like that. And I just had no idea. But no, it was already an extremely strong club, and it just keeps getting stronger somehow.
Yeah, I mean that has to have a sort of snowball effect for everybody at that club getting such high quality reps. And I have had the misfortune for most of my Scrabble playing career to be in sort of club dead zones for whatever reason. I've never really had that good of a club, but I recently, my wife and I moved outside of Philadelphia, and there's a really good, it is entirely NWL, but I still don't have that much of an issue playing that lexicon. So I'm happy to do so. And I feel like having a really good, thriving club with very strong players, I think, 5 or 6 people rated 1700 or above. It's great. I'm loving it. I feel like I can finally sort of appreciate that every week you're getting good games. You're not getting that rust of, you're not seeing complicated end game or pre-end game positions. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. So, yeah, it's something that I certainly can't, I don't think any club in North America can compare to OSC in just the sheer strength of the very top players, and also just the diversity of players. There's, I don't know, 20 to 30 regular attendees of OSC. But it's nice to have a thriving club. I can say now from personal experience for the first time. So,
yes, no, absolutely.
So we had a question in the chat on Twitch from IPU Disciple who asks, why is Adam not playing in this tourney? Adam actually addressed that, which is, to my, and correct me if my paraphrasing is off here, but Adam needs to conserve his energy for next week. Adam has a big week next week, everybody. Not only is he going to be playing the main event at Albany, along with the rest of pretty much every strong player, not just in the East Coast of North America and, you know, the US and Canada, but players from all over the place are coming to Albany. But Adam, of course, playing in a best of 15 match against Nigel Richards next week, which, if you are a Scrabble fan of any stripe, that should get you pretty amped. And I'm sure, Adam, it's exciting in a different way for you as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, you know, what can I say? You know, just, you know, it's really an honor to be chosen for the inaugural match of this kind. And I just hope that I can, you know, I can't, you know, no one can ever promise anything about the results, but all I can say is that I hope that I can look back at the match later and feel that I played reasonably well.
Yeah, that's the only way to consider it. Nigel, you know, this is something where I've actually been working on a video to preview the match, which is going to go live tomorrow, I believe. I'm on track for that. And one of the things that I looked at was, you know, every so often Nigel has a tournament where he potentially doesn't start as fast as usual, and then you see some comments like, "Oh no, you know, is he slowing down?" And of course, you know, Father Time is undefeated, as they say, and at some point potentially we're going to see slippage in Nigel's game. But thanks to Woogles.io and the event landing page that we had, as well as the very significant staff that Michael Tang had on site, we can actually see the majority of Nigel's games from the Causeway Challenge, where he lost 5 games in a row. You look at that and you say, oh man, how is that possible? Well, it turns out that when you actually analyze everybody's games from the top division at the Causeway Challenge, Nigel made by far the lowest number of mistakes of any player. He did not miss a single point of equity in the end game at any point. He played 20 perfect end games in 20 games that we witnessed. And he had a pretty big gap between his quote unquote mistake index and the next closest player, who was David Eldar, the eventual champion. Adam, I will tell you, this is a sneak peek into something I'm going to share in the video, that Nigel's mistake index was 0.5 per game, which is shockingly low. It's very easy to make mistakes in Scrabble. And also some of that 0.5, I might be apt to trust Nigel over, you know, the methodology is not perfect, but where you can use this mistake index that Macondo, the computer engine, is able to compile, is to compare players with one another, because whatever is flawed about the methodology is going to be roughly equally flawed for everybody. And so Nigel with 0.5, David Eldar, the next closest, with 1.45. And I will say that I went back to some of your games this year, and you are the only person to have a mistake index as low as David Eldar. You were 1.43 in games that I took from the Game of Tiles tournament and from other tournaments that you played this year. So you and David are in a class of your own at that sort of 1.5 level, which is shockingly high and much better, or I guess I should say low, however you want to put it, shockingly good. And then there's Nigel at a completely other stratosphere in terms of how many mistakes he makes. So not sure what you think about all that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not actually familiar with the mistake index. I somehow I tried to install Macondo on a computer. I couldn't get it going, but I do use Magpie, which is you know, I think a derivative of the same original the same original code or ideas or something. And unfortunately, it does not yet have all of the features of Macondo. There's no pre-endgame analyzer, for example. But yeah, whenever I watch Nigel, I think, how does anyone, how can anyone play the game this well? I just have no idea how he does the things that he does.
Yeah, we all marvel at it. I've made quite a bit of content about that very thing. And that's I mean, I personally really, really enjoy playing against him just
Mhm.
because how could you not? I don't know. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
as long as your priority is not necessarily to win the individual game,
Mhm.
if your priority is just enjoying really high quality games with great opponents, then playing him would be a thrill. And that's how I look at it. I'm sure that's how you're thinking about it as well. And as you say, I think it's a great attitude as long as you can look back at the match and say, yeah, I played roughly as well as usual, or maybe a little better, didn't do anything
Mhm.
totally out of character. You can rest easy on that. But the rest of us who are not you are just, I mean, it's like Scrabble nirvana to me. I just feel like something that I've been working towards for quite a while is for people with a passing interest in Scrabble to hear something like, hey, Nigel Richards and Adam Logan are playing a best of 15 match, and I want people to be, getting hyped. And I think that's how the community is going to receive it. So it is very exciting. So I'm not sure if Heidi's going to come aboard here to talk to us. I sent her a message on Twitch, which I think she's taking a break. Um, Not
Mhm.
that we should also not be able to take a break of our own, Adam. So maybe what we'll do
Yeah.
is just take a couple minutes break. I have a very crude break screen here
Mhm.
to keep the stream warm, and we'll just reconvene in a couple minutes. Heidi will be going up against Jason Broersma in round 6. And yeah, not sure if we'll get to talk to her, but we're just going to cut to a quick break and be back in a couple of minutes with round 6 from Canada Day. be visible yet. And I just want to see what's happening here. Hey, everybody. I'm not sure if people can hear me. I just want to refresh our feeds. Whoop. That was ominous. It just feels like a long... I know, yeah, no visual yet on us. I just want to make sure that they haven't started, because that was such a slow, like Noah had no time left. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and, hey, everybody out there, I'm gonna mute myself for just a second, and I just want to get a hold of Terry Kang, who has a bye, and just make sure that they aren't actually playing. Be right back.
Just give me a couple of minutes here.
All right. Hey, everybody. Adam's going to be back in just a couple minutes, but we figured out the issue at long last. Issue was that Heidi's round 6 opponent, Jason Broersma, as is his right, declined to be on stream. But everything happened so quickly that I actually did not get that message. So we're actually heading into round 7 against Shafiq Dobani here, and I'm going to get all of that stuff squared away. And we have Adam back too. Hey, Adam. Sorry for the unplanned break there.
Hey.
But
Oh,
we're
no problem.
back. We will see. We don't yet know what actually happened in that game, but we will figure out whether Heidi won or lost. Seems like a win would go a long way to getting her back in contention here. And it is Shafiq going first in this game and playing Flirt. And I like the look of some of these tiles. Ooh, the duplicated I and B. Well, actually, this is going to be a tough one,
Oh,
Adam.
yes. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something good, but not the easiest find.
Yeah, I suspect that people in Montreal 100 years ago would have all of them would have known this word, but it's a lot less known now.
Yeah, one of those that's not in vogue, but that we have in the Collins Dictionary. But yeah, the bingo here, I could put it up on screen here. Benitier into the R of Flirt. This is sort of an auto play if you see it, and if you don't, you're going to have to work a lot harder to find a play that you like.
Yeah, I mean, benefits to the F of Flirt. I mean, obviously, it doesn't come anywhere close to comparing to Benitier, but it does at least score well. Oh, she's almost set it up. Oh, there we go. Wonderful.
Nice work. It is relatively high probability, so I could have imagined that depending on how deep into the 8-letter words that she studied, this is a word where if you see it once or twice, and maybe you've even just seen it on a board as opposed to studying it, it does kind of stand out with that B in early position, which is kind of where you expect the B to go. And this is a very nice find, a very big difference between finding this and having to play something like Benefit. So nice work, Heidi, getting off on the right foot here.
And I might add that Heidi's French is very good. So, this sequence of letters doesn't seem strange to her. Béni, blessed, and the IER ending is very natural, is very common in French as well. So, it's not like someone who doesn't know any French is trying to master this completely unfamiliar sequence of letters.
So a challenge coming as well from Shafiq to make absolutely sure. It's hard to know. We were mentioning that Shafiq, after a long layoff from Tournament Scrabble, is back playing at a quite solid level. Another strong expert player at the Ottawa Scrabble Club. I don't have as good of an understanding. I mean, you mentioned that this word is somewhat archaic and perhaps was last used long ago, which makes me believe it probably isn't a recent entrant into the Collins lexicon, but you never know. Maybe, if Shafiq hasn't seen it in a while, good to give it an extra 5 points.
Yeah, and my vague feeling, although I can't say for certain at the moment, is that this was always true, even before Collins, when the UK dictionary was Chambers, that this word was valid back then. But I can't claim to be absolutely certain of that.
So when you place a letter out in open space like that, you're hoping to dodge a big play through the B, but in fact, while Heidi has done that, the news is not very good as a nice response here of Motorial. 90-point double-double, looking very strong, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, there's also Motorail, which I assume would take an S, but I know to assume that Motorial doesn't. It looks like Heidi is challenging this one in exchange.
Yeah, the points were easy come, easy go with those points for the
Yeah.
challenge. But I did see before she turned the tiles down, I did see an X, and there is a nice big
Yeah,
spot
and
for it
cheese.
right here. So that's going to help to fight back after this very nice play by Shafiq.
Yeah.
And let me get those extra 5 points here. There we go. Man, it's very slick. The Woogle system is a big improvement over how we used to do this. So kudos to Woogles.io. This is a really cool system. My first time using it, the live annotation feature, which sort of spits out all the scores and everything else you could need to stream something. Very, very slick. But okay, so 90 points plus 5 more for Shafiq. Heidi's going to get that X play. She will definitely find that in short order. I think with the 2 Gs on the rack, Adam, it has to be Gox, and you move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would at least think very briefly about the possibility of playing Jag with the 2 Gs above the AL of Motorial. I mean, you are saving the X for later and getting rid of some bad tiles. It is very dangerous, though. I mean, there are no S's and no Y's played, so that is a rather hazardous spot in which to end that word. So I think that you do. I think you have to play just Gox.
Yeah, interesting. That is worth at least fleeting consideration. And I suppose you could give fleeting consideration as well to Docs if you feel like keeping JAGG is going to increase your floor on your next turn to just know that you have a 39-point play. But in general, the 2 Gs definitely a problem that you'd like to avoid. So I feel Gox is pretty standard, but yeah, I guess it is worth at least thinking about Docs for a moment. Or maybe just plopping the X down by itself. All that to say,
Yeah.
we're going to see Gox here, almost certainly.
Yeah, I think Gox is the correct choice. I mean, you're saying about the floor, but if you play GOX, you're still saving JAG, which is not so bad.
So there is the play that we expected. We do see the result from the previous game coming in onto the standings, which is that Heidi beat Jason Broersma by what appears to be 8 points. So moving up to 3-3, nice work. 2 games in a row for Heidi after a 1-3 morning, in which that one was the bye. So she's looking to continue to make that charge into the afternoon games. And we've got a very even game here. I'm curious to see what she'll draw. She could definitely stand to draw vowels, but I guess, jading. She has the letters to play that through the eye if she doesn't draw much better, and she hasn't, but jangled also. So it looks like it would be tricky for Shafiq to block both of those, not impossible. And has he managed? No, this doesn't block jangled, but
no, that doesn't block jangled.
Yeah, but another very nice play by Shafiq, showing off his bingo knowledge here. Like we were saying, Adam, sometimes these are the plays that look incredibly impressive potentially to your more casual viewer, but to somebody like Shafiq who has trained quite hard over the years, these plays don't require too much thought if you see the word.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is certainly a word that Shafiq could have studied, and it is. You cannot afford to miss these plays because on this kind of rack with the bingo and no blank, if you somehow miss the best play, well, okay. I mean, blotch for 51 in the top row is not so awful, but it still does concede a fair amount relative to Eolithic. And again, although it's not such an easy hook to use, maybe because of the B there. You do also want to remember that there's a front hook of an N on Eolithic.
Wow. Yes, that's true. And I think Heidi's next play, she had it lined up, and I think she's going to go back to it, is very, very likely to be jangled through that E, scoring quite nicely. But the Neolithic hook would still sit there. She has an N, to your point, but there really isn't any reasonable candidate play. Bland in this spot is just nowhere near good enough to play.
No, CGJ is terrible.
Yeah, you just don't. You get only 2 fewer points for jangled, keeping a lone C, which is, of course, one of the most misunderstood tiles in the game, Adam. I feel like I'm always shocked
Yes, no, you're
talking
right.
to newer players. They hate the C, but we like it quite a bit better at the top level.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're a newer player, maybe you're more focused on making overlaps, and there the C gets in your way because of it not making any two-letter words. But it's a very good tile for bingoing, and that's more how we concentrate on scoring our points. So it's a lot more valuable to the higher levels.
Yeah, without question, that is true. I always feel compelled to try to defend the C from its unfair impugnment. I don't know if that's a word, but whatever. People talk down on it in the same class as the V, but really they are
Mhm.
quite light years apart as tiles in this game. So back to Shafiq. We'll see what Heidi draws to that C. There's still plenty of goodies out there. Oops, I reversed the scores instead of flip the board.
No blanks played.
Yeah, no blanks, nor are there any S's. And there we go. There's the first
First
one.
one.
So that's good. Although this isn't what I would consider, because of Shafiq's choice of motorial instead of moto rail. That was sort of a choice with some implications. The S is not particularly powerful on this board, though it's certainly still a tile you're happy to see come onto the rack.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. One other thing, that maybe you should have mentioned earlier. So when your opponent makes a play from the left, from the middle of the middle left part of the middle row on their first turn, you always want to think, can you extend this one to the triple? And I don't believe that there's any 8-letter word ending in flirt. But if I remember correctly, there is a nice 9-letter word that unfortunately doesn't quite fit. Let me actually make sure that this is valid.
I don't know this one.
There isn't.
Oh man, what mega? Is it possible? Mega?
No.
Over?
No.
Oh man,
Or at least let me check that this. Let me check that it is actually unique.
I don't
okay,
know
there are
this one.
two different spellings of the same word.
I don't know this word. I'm so excited to eventually hear the answer. Anybody in the chat, will give it a moment. Nobody's mentioned it that I can see just yet. Somebody said anti-flirt. I'm not sure is that
Nope.
it? Nope. Okay.
No, that's not it.
Well, I'm stumped, so I'm ready for that answer.
Okay, so the answer is Jill flirt, either with a G or with a J, which I assume means a flirtatious girl named Jill or something like that.
That is fantastic. I confess I did not know that one. Maybe someday I could aspire to know that word, but that is tremendous. I would love to see that hit a board at some point.
Yeah.
So Shafiq playing just underlapping the J with Gay for 33 points. Pretty solid looking play for him there. Opening up the triple with the G, which is not the easiest tile to use. And Heidi to her C, she drew the H. That is nice. That harmonizes well. CH. I would say a lot of good stuff that she can try to use here, except for that U, which is always, maybe not always, but it is often the fly in the ointment. She has some interesting plays here. I'll put up the analyzer, Adam, and you can weigh in on what you think about some of these.
Yeah, so I mean, Heidi has set up what I thought would be the best play here, namely Gaucho from the G of Gay. I mean, the leave is certainly not by no means weak. The score is, I think, the best available. And yeah, I mean, I see, the score, I guess, Heidi being behind certainly doesn't have a problem with creating the bingo line, hooking onto the O of Gaucho. So yeah, I see no reason to override the static analyzer here. The other thing that I might point out is that, unfortunately, the T is in the way of playing a bingo through the C. Although I guess you can't really hope for there not to be a tile in the center square.
That would be amazing. Yes, Pachuco, I think.
Yeah, Pachuco's exactly
playable through the C. Not playable here if it were fully available in open C. But this is a great play. I really think this is not the easiest play to spot, but she spotted it before we even mentioned it. And as you say, highest scoring play, and also keeping PS. You're happy with that leave, creating a nice spot for the P to hook. The P likes to be the first letter in words in which it appears much of the time. It's one of those 3 to 5 point tiles that tend to prefer to be first, like the C or F or B tiles like that. She hasn't drawn great, but yeah, we'll just. I think in general that was a really nice play by her, and she's going to have to balance something here. But she's got the nucleus of a bingo rack, which she's going to need in short order.
Yeah, I mean, the game is still fairly close, but definitely, Heidi will need almost certainly will need a bingo, probably will need to play more bingos than Shafiq from here on.
Yeah, that seems true. She has Prow set up. She's probably thinking about playing Prowl, and ooh, that's going to hit pretty hard.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Whale is going to score 48 points as I'm trying to prevent my cat from entering in plays into this annotation. It looks like she's hell-bent on doing so.
Well, I guess maybe she sees the PRR and is hoping to play Per, but I guess we're not going to get that here.
That would be amazing to have that happen right at that exact moment. Let's see if we can corral the cat here and make sure we get the 48 points for Shafiq. It would have been really nice from Heidi's perspective if he had a slightly below average play there, because it would have made it potentially more realistic to get back into this game simply by outscoring Shafiq from there. But as you say, a play of that magnitude really continues to put pressure on Heidi to get the next bingo down in the game if she's really going to have a great chance here. The good news is she has a great nucleus of tiles with which to do that. The bad news is there isn't really a great place to score well while dumping. I'm looking through that OA of Eolithic and Quail because she has so many consonants, but I'm not seeing much there, Adam.
No, I agree. I don't see anything there either. I mean, the plays that come to mind, well, she could play JARP from the JA there, but when you're looking for a bingo, the W really gets badly in the way. My other idea at the moment is to play Frouse or Froust down from the F of Flirt. And, much as you hate to use the S, it is the first one, so it's not as bad as it might be to use it. And you are opening some space, and if you play Frouse, you're setting up the T-hook. Although, PRT maybe is a bit too constant heavy. So I'm not sure what the right thing is to do. What do you think?
That is an interesting option. We're sort of, I would say, right at the midpoint of this game in terms of the number of tiles played, number of tiles left. And we have yet to see an S or blank hit the board. You mentioned that a play like Froust comes significantly more palatable when you have a good chance of redrawing the S that you use. It was the last S available in the game. I don't think we would be suggesting it. But as I think about it, I do kind of like this idea of playing 5 tiles. You're not scoring a huge amount, but nor are you scoring nothing at all. And, other plays like mentioned getting rid of the W, you could play Bow up here for a pretty solid score, leaving 5 consonants, including 2 R's. That leaves you so vulnerable to, if you do not draw 2 vowels after that,
yes, exactly.
You are certainly not bingoing, and you could be hard pressed to score. That being said, if you do draw 2 vowels, you have a decent chance of getting a bingo down. So it's a very high risk type of play, and I feel that Froust is a little bit more smooth in its outcomes because you're likelier to redraw S's, blanks, and bingos as opposed to that polarizing play of Bow.
Yeah, I mean, if there were no blanks left, then I think, but at the same scores, let's say, then Bow would be, I think, a lot more compelling because Frost gives you the chance of drawing a bunch of tiles and getting a blank, whereas Bow, you're going for the 2 vowels. If you have the same chance of drawing 2 vowels but no chance of getting a blank, then Bow would look a lot better to me.
Not for nothing.
I guess we're just questioning.
Yeah, that is the play that she makes, and not for nothing, but it scores 33 points, leaving. Again, this bingo prone leave, which if you do happen to get the 2 vowels, you're going to bingo a lot. So there is a significant upside to this play. I kind of like Froust, and I also like your initial suggestion of JARP there, as Shafiq very quickly responding with a we, the nice overlap underneath
Yeah.
his previous overlapping play. And there's one vowel, but not the other one that Heidi needed to get that bingo down fast here.
Right. And so again, with regard to the play of sharp, you notice what would have happened here. Assuming that Heidi draws the same en, her rack would now be ENORST, which is a wonderful set of 6 tiles. But then she would have the W, and it seems to me that the W would then prevent her from playing any bingos. But as it is, it's always tempting to, in the game, what if I had done this in the last 3 turns ago? But it doesn't actually. And we should maybe do it as commentators, but you have to discipline yourself not to do it too much as a player, because it really doesn't help much.
Yeah, agreed there. You have to focus on what play was the best given the information I had at the time. So sometimes
Yeah.
you can look back in retrospect and realize that maybe the road less traveled or the option you did not take might have been better. And in this particular case, it also would have worked out better. But using that logic is a dangerous game. I do really like this play, though, by her of erupt through the E and U at the top of the board. This looks really sensible and warranted aggression to me.
Yeah, the aggression is definitely appropriate. I mean, the one thing that I find myself wondering about actually is whether it might be better just to play ERP, in that by making such a play, she would keep the T with her ENRS, which means that if she draws one vowel, she has a very high chance of bingoing. And although, of course, I couldn't have known this, ERP would have prevented Akwait from coming down.
Yeah, that is a tough response. 50 points for Shafiq.
Yeah, that hurts.
That does hurt quite a bit. It's funny because that was almost certain to be the play he wanted to make before Erupt, and all Erupt did was make it hit slightly harder. That's always, when you're the one benefiting from that, Adam, that's always a good feeling to feel like, oh no, my play I want to do is being blocked. Oh, but wait, now it just hits even harder.
But the nice thing for Heidi, I mean, she drew this unfortunate MSY, which is going to stop her from bingoing. But those 3 tiles will now play again in the same area of the board to make Moya's for 42, which from this track seems like a great score, and still keeping quite a nice lead.
That would be phenomenal. Moya's through the O and A, underlapping. Oh, that would be so nice to see her spot that one. And it is, as we bring up the analyzer, you can see just on what we call equity alone, that's just the measure of how much a play scores and how good in a vacuum are the letters left over. It is head and shoulders above any other option there. So that is an amazing play to spot. And Shafiq's been doing a really, really nice job of scoring quite well on his last few turns, dumping a bunch of vowels while he's at it. So she really needs those 42 points to stay in range so that her eventual bingo really makes a difference in the game. So
and even though Heidi is quite far behind now, she can still hope to draw bingos with both blanks, which would get her right back in range. And I guess even with the 42 points now, even that would probably even put her ahead by a bit. The other interesting option that I noticed with my computer is she could play SNY with quails, which would set up a very powerful E hook. On the other hand, looking at Shafiq's last couple of plays, I think it's significantly more likely than random that he has one of those E's.
Really interesting idea. This is, if you see Moya's, that's definitely the play. But if you don't, this is a play that on its face has a lot of things going for it. But nice work, Heidi. Moya's
there we go. Perfect.
42. She's played quite well in this game, I have to say, Adam. I really...
very much, yeah.
What can you look at? I mean, Bo was the top static equity play, whether we would have played something else or not. It definitely had a lot going for it. That's pretty much the only play I could quibble with at all. It's been a really nicely played game by her so far.
So I ran the simulation in Magpie, and it actually has ERP as being slightly better than Erupt. It claims that we're talking about half a percent of wins, not a big deal. But it claims that if you play ERP, then your bingo chance in the next turn is almost 65%, as opposed to only 55% after Erupt. So even though it seems little bit strange maybe to keep the T as your fourth consonant. Nevertheless, it does seem to improve the ruck.
Yeah, it is an interesting phenomenon to note that when you have a 3-tile leave that's bingo prone, a 4-tile leave that's bingo prone, sometimes the benefits of adding that extra tile and going from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 tiles in a good bingo leave results in a very surprisingly high increase in bingo chances, just because eliminating that chance of drawing a poor bingo tile and really confining, fewer draws and ensuring that if you do draw, the bingo tiles that you need to pair up with the rest of your leave, your chances of bingoing are very, very high. So maybe it's less that you can't absorb one weak bingo tile when you're drawing 2 or 3 replenishment tiles, and maybe you draw 2 unsynergistic high point tiles. That is what often torpedoes your bingo chance. So really interesting, ERP versus Erupt. Can't say I really quibble super much. It does, as we were saying, in this particular case, it would have blocked Aquay, which is kind of a funny hidden benefit, which we really should not over-index on in this particular position.
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's not really the point. Yeah.
Would have been different. As we see, she's drawn very well. So if Shafiq has something not that good here, she's going to get a bingo down and have a great chance to draw at least one of the 2 blanks still unseen.
Yeah, no, especially we were talking about this in the game with Noah, when he played Benitez, that, it's when you're ahead and your opponent plays the bingo, you at least, of course, you still wish they hadn't, but you do feel better about it when they play it with a blank. But here, Heidi is going to play the bingo without a blank. So, Shafiq will perhaps be less happy about it. But, okay, so Shafiq plays the Nazi, which is, scores very well.
Solid score.
Lots of spaces for Heidi to bingo, yeah.
I think it is a solid score, but I would say that, at the level that most of these players are at, Heidi and Shafiq included, you are kind of expecting on a average board or a neutral board that has reasonable scoring opportunities, you're usually expecting your opponent to get somewhere between 30 and 40 points on average. So it could be worse with the Z there. You could be getting hit a little bit harder than that. The trick here, though, is to see that you can overlap quite nice alongside this. But is there an overlap that is worth playing to open up this triple, or do you just stick to playing Sordine and Nazis here, which scores solidly, right? That's an 82-pointer. Is it worth the extra points given your deficit to play? This is the highest scoring bingo, Adam. Donzier. What do you make of that decision between Donzier and Sordine?
Yeah, well, partly these things might depend on the range of on the collection of unseen tiles, and which of them you think that Shafiq would be likely to have. So, looking at the unseen tiles here, I'm looking at this in my own Magpie window. I see that there are not actually a lot of high scoring of 3 and 4 point tiles. So there is an F, which Shafiq did not keep because he surely would have played Fizz, very likely would have played Fizz instead of Nazi. If Shafiq had kept the K, then he would have played Kazi instead of Nazi. I mean, maybe all bets are off if Shafiq kept 2 or 3 ends, but in that case, I think we're happy anyway. And so I think that it's difficult for Shafiq to score especially well with a non-bingo there. I mean, he could still have something like Verve, which would hurt. And with Heidi being behind, now on the other hand, with Heidi being behind, that tends to favor leaving the board open for bingos, but not making good spots for intermediate plays. And that would push you towards something like Sordine, or maybe Rosand for 2 more points, or Ordines to leave a little bit more space open. So I will say that I think I would probably have preferred Ordines, but I think it's a very difficult decision.
Yeah, I agree. It seems very tough. I like the thinking that went into sort of sussing out the F, the likelihood of having the F, the K, some of these other scary tiles. Deafener. So that is so plausible looking, but it is not valid. And I feel like she could easily think how could that not be a word? And she would have a good argument, but it happens to not be in the dictionary.
Yep.
So I'm a little worried now that if that E of Donzier stays open, we could be seeing a potentially game. I mean, I don't want to say game losing, but game altering mistake there, which would be pretty justifiable. I feel like that could be a word, Adam.
Yeah, no, interestingly, Heidi's rack does not make any 8-letter words.
Oh, that's great.
Which is not something I would have expected.
Yeah,
I mean,
it looks great to me.
Yeah, well, I guess, we'll have to see what happens. A lot depends on where Shafiq chooses to play on his turn.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels almost like a lock that Shafiq is going to find his way into blocking Deafener through this E. Either plays down here, this looks like a really nice way to score well to the triple, or just something through this R, which maybe this is the more defensive of the two options, given that if you play something here, it leaves this whole lane still open. Whereas if you play through the R, you've neutralized access to both this triple and the one you've used. So yeah, it seems like Shafiq is very likely to block this and force Heidi to come up with a different possibility. And she has some good options off of this I.
Yeah, she has infair.
Yeah, infair, leaving DE, in feed, leaving AR, which is maybe a little better than usual, given that there are no A's in the unseen pool. So there's still going to be good options for her on the next turn, Adam.
Oh, sorry. What I said before about no 8-letter words is nonsense. Somehow I was checking this event. I was checking it with pattern match rather than anagrams. There are in fact several 8-letter words with this rack.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. I saw her set up Fridane.
Yes, indeed. That's
an I, and it didn't occur to me when she did that that would contradict the assertion that there are no A's. Yeah. That's okay. We're on track now. Yeah. So yeah.
So I have a new daydream, by the way, which is that Shafiq is going to play something overlapping Donzier on the right and make RE.
Oh, referenda. Oh, that's tremendous. Oh my God, that would be incredible. I actually feel like she would have a chance to see that just with natural anagramming ability. I think she has that skill to a high degree, but that would be tremendous. Also, it should be said, very unlikely of a play, but as you say, we can dream, we can daydream. Yeah.
No, but I agree with you that on the board as it stands, it would be great if Heidi could play in feed. Looking at the remaining tiles, it does seem to me that the D and the E open there would be very nice, and there are the S's and T's, not to mention the blanks and E's for her still to draw.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So for a brief moment, it looked like she had set up. She was considering something that was pointed out by a Scrabble Mania in the chat. Farrened, Farrened through that R, which would be a very ambitious attempt at a triple. But it should be noted that Farren is valid, Farren. So if she happens to know that word, it's hard to remember, and that's kind of the weird secret of tournament Scrabble is that we often can't define many of the words we play. There's only limited brain space to cram in all these words that we need to use as playing pieces. If you thought that was a verb, it would be tempting to play that. Again, though, I just don't see how Shafiq is not going to cover up that area of the board, and that will force Heidi to look elsewhere, potentially to that I. All right, here we go. Servo. Okay. So
Servo, that's interesting.
Yeah, using an S. Shafiq took a while on this, so I'm just wondering, is it possible that he took a long enough time because he couldn't find a play that scored that well that didn't use the S? I'm not sure I read this as for sure that he has another S after this play, because he took a while to play it. Yeah. If you had the other one, I feel like it would come down pretty quick.
Right. I mean, the other thing that you would feel that you're compromising on with this play is that you're creating this great bingo line on row 14, which is not so easy to block without sacrificing your turn. And that is something that at the score, Shafiq must be very reluctant to do. So it's interesting. I mean, I wonder, for example, I feel like if Shafiq had the D or the P, then surely he would have preferred to play Derv or Perv.
Also true. Certainly.
And I want, so I don't, and I don't know. And on the other hand, his tiles can't have been too good. If he was keeping, IT blank or something, he would have had no trouble playing a bingo. So yeah, it's quite interesting to try to think about what tiles Shafiq might have kept for this play.
Yeah, triangulating your opponent's leave. Once you get higher and higher up in the sort of echelons of Scrabble skill, it starts to become more and more valuable as you are able to give your opponent more credit that if they had this and that letter, they for sure would have found this other alternative play. This is something that I fully expect to see at its absolute peak in your upcoming match with Nigel. I'm sure the both of you are going to be doing your absolute best on each and every turn to try to read the tea leaves of the other, figure out what adjustments to make based on the plays that were made and the plays that were not made based on the letters that were used. To me, that is such a fun extra layer of Scrabble that starts to emerge as you continue up the ranks.
Of course, against Nigel, often what you infer is that he's made the play that is going to guarantee his victory, and you can't actually do anything about it. But
True. Well, that's a sobering inference for sure. But while the game is still up for grabs, there's still a lot of information you can glean from a lot of the things that he does, which is funny, right? Like the better you get as a player, the more reliable inference becomes as a technique to triangulate your opponent's tiles. So you would think, unlike other games where you're trying, as you're getting better and better, maybe you are trying to obscure your intentions more so. But in Scrabble, it's that is a factor sometimes where you're, maybe if you have two S's and it would be normally, oh, nice job, Heidi. In fair again. This is in feed would have scored 3 more, and maybe that would have been justified here with that valuable final A. But this is a great consolation prize. Definitely the right idea. Another nice play by her. But anyway, I think I made my point with the inference, Adam. Not sure if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That the stronger your opponent is, the more reliable the inferences that you can make. Now, one other issue about in fair versus in feed, by the way, is that by playing in fair, sometimes Heidi will allow a high scoring blocking play like Keb or Cop or something like that above the ARE. And that might sometimes be enough to swing the game in favor of Shafiq, even against a bingo by Heidi, which, looking at her tiles, she'll certainly have no trouble making.
Yeah, what a draw. Both blanks. And I've put in the tiles from her perspective, and you can see a lot of those high pointers. She did draw the F, but we were talking after Shafiq's play of Nazi. Is he just going to play Erev? Oh, bruv. This is like unbelievable for Heidi that she is potentially going to steal this, as Shafiq has to take a really low score to shed Clunk off of his rack. She's going to be able to bingo, and if she can dodge a response bingo from Shafiq, she might come back in this one, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, Heidi now has the difficult task of trying to figure out which of her bingos is least likely to give a bingo back to Shafiq. So, we can see, for example, that if the K and the P are in the bag, then Shafiq would have Dotiest with Bruvs and also hooking onto Servo. And he would also have Otaitides through the eye of Doncier. Now, my immediate instinct, not having done any kind of counting on this, is that the way to go for Heidi would be to play down from the T of Flirt, since that at least interferes with both the S hook on Bruv and with the line hooking Servo.
Really interesting. Yeah, I think an important point too is that a lot of the bingos that end in the S or ST combination are going to play here as well. So picking, it's really it's going to be difficult for her to pick one or the other of these two. So if she's able to open her mind to the idea that playing here blocks sevens almost completely, I can't even imagine where a 7-letter word would still fit on the board after this. That's really
No, you're
helpful,
right.
especially with stuff like desktop available here.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah, I know.
that scores. I mean, that's a bingo. It doesn't play with bruvs, but if you block bruvs with a bingo like renders or what have you, there you can get out bingoed on with something like this. And those tiles just are not
Exactly.
good enough to play many eights. If I'm not seeing any immediately that you can play. So yeah, that is definitely a major threat. Um, it's interesting. After Bruv, the remaining tiles are relatively bingo prone, even with the K and P in there. There's enough stuff that,
Mhm.
yeah, I like the instinct that you have there. Playing off of that T feels warranted here.
Yeah, and with the two blanks, of course, there are going to be lots of choices, and you want to try to expose the tiles that will do the least damage. Now, with the two E's on your rack, I think it's going to be hard not to make one of them available. So again, not having looked at this, my first instinct maybe is to play something like Tenderer. Um, so I mean, you're exposing an E and an R, but at least you're exposing them twice each. So you don't want to try to not expose too many different letters.
Really good point.
And there maybe will be something better than that, but that's again my immediate guess.
Yeah, this really minimizes the amount of tiles that you can play through here. Just the E and the R, the D is very difficult to hit, especially with the hook here lurking. It's not nearly as good of a floater as certainly this E, which is, you get two more squares of room on the right hand side of the board. But yeah, Tenderer, really, really interesting. Um, that is a tricky one. And ultimately, could Shafiq have exactly the wrong set of tiles to not be threatening anything and you get away scot free no matter what you play?
Mhm.
Absolutely. But this is one of those situations where dodging the bingo really does appear to be the difference between a win and a loss. So you have to. And another point to make is that it doesn't really matter too much, I wouldn't think, maximizing your score with a bingo. Yes, you are down by 35 and you have to be careful not to score nothing. But when it comes to playing off of the T, you could take a point sacrifice by putting a blank in this square if it meant that you denied more bingos. You would still be fine after that. So trendier score
Yeah, I think that's right.
77, tenderer, I guess, isn't going to score quite as well because you're not putting a D in this
Yeah, it's
square,
74.
but you can live with that for sure. Those 3 points aren't likely to decide things.
Yeah, I think that's right. If you have some some bad combination of letters that doesn't play out, and Shafiq has some amazing out in two, then I think it's quite likely that such a rack would give him a bingo anyway, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So this is this is a crazy moment. It looks like she's getting set to play here. This is a
Mhm.
reasonable choice on its face if you're picking a spot to play. But anything that plays with
Yeah,
bruvs, it just so happens that pokiest, dotiest, as you mentioned, all those are still going to
yeah,
play and be more than enough. So at this point, after this, we are all rooting for Shafiq not to have a 7-letter bingo on his rack.
yeah.
We're going to see what
I mean,
happens here.
any 7-letter bingo will play because all of Shafiq's letters except for the E go in front of the O, and none of his 7-letter words would start with E.
So
So
we'll. Oh,
maybe Shafiq is challenging.
if Shafiq is challenging, I guess that doesn't really tell us anything. Maybe he's challenging Brubs. I didn't actually catch what the blanks were designated as.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
Maybe vendors. I guess you probably made it a V, if I'm guessing, that just to
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah,
eliminate overlapping
I mean,
potential there.
not that the S is really the spot where Shafiq would be trying to bingo, but
So this is going to come back valid. I'm pretty sure just challenging
oh,
the one word, but we'll see if that's
mhm.
true. And I think we're going to figure out pretty quickly, Adam, whether Shafiq is going to hit that 7 or not. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
So we don't know Heidi's tiles yet. I hesitate the unseen tiles don't look correct, or rather, sorry, I should say we don't know that those are the tiles that Shafiq has. I don't think we've even mentioned tiptoed.
Right.
That would be a painful way to lose here. Not blocking the S hook, then losing to a bingo there. PD. Oh, PD. I think she dodged it. I think she dodged it. Wow.
Yeah, she got away with it.
Okay. So good on her to get that bingo down, but DP is a good draw. She's definitely going to go out with those. And she dodged the bingo and completed the comeback. Very impressive. Was that the absolute optimal play at the end of the game? Probably not, but you're still going to win anytime Shafiq does not have a bingo. That's what happened, Adam. 3 straight wins for Heidi. We must be a good luck charm or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure we can take credit for the second one where we weren't actually able to see what was going on. But...
Yeah, true. So yeah, Shafiq has good plays available here. He can play Skit alongside Donzier, making ink and other overlaps for 41 points, which is going to get him pretty close here. In fact, it would tie the game, but then Heidi would simply need to go out, and she can do that in at least depth through the E of vendors. Not sure. Oh, paid as well through AYE at the top of the board. So there's
that's right.
There's going to be options for her no matter what. And very nice comeback win. Shafiq definitely starting off strong with Motorial and Eolithic, adding in a slew of high-scoring intermediate plays. Heidi is able to come back. Nice job.
Yeah, so this looks like Shafiq's best play here, but it, as you pointed out, it just finds the score, and any outplay by Heidi will now win the game for her.
I'm wondering how many challenges were made in this game. I think it was very even for both players, right? Vendors was challenged. I think Heidi challenged Servo and Motorial. So
that's right. Yep.
So there weren't that many.
Yeah.
So it's not.
So I think they each challenged because Shafiq. Yeah.
So it's not one of these situations where if Shafiq had somehow not challenged any words, he could have won this. Heidi won by too much for that. Yep. So we will get this game completed here. I think I finished it off 502 to 484. Wow, very nice.
Oh.
And maybe I'm not sure if she will have. I know that potentially they're running behind slightly, and she may be ready to start the very next game. But the next game is with Josh Sokol, who will probably be more understanding if she wants to come in and speak to us and speak to everybody out there in the chat. So we'll see if we get a visit into the command center from Heidi coming off of her 3rd straight win. If not, we will finish off the day with a very, very difficult opponent in Josh Sokol. Adam, always a challenging player to compete against.
Yes, very much so, as I found out in these last few months in Montreal.
That's right. You must be getting in more games than ever with Josh. He is very fun to play. He is not afraid to put his opponents in scary positions, even at risk to himself, with some of those opening plays, different setups that he'll make over the course of the game. Very creative and fun player. He's going to know that he's on stream, and he may want to put on a show for us. We'll see. So Heidi with this win, moving up to 4-3. Looks like she won by 18, which is going to bring her spread to minus 56.
Right.
And Josh Sokol will get his record in when we have it. Maybe we already do. Refresh and have a look. I think we're still waiting for round 7 from him. He's 3-3. Yep. Maybe he's in chat. I know I've peeked and seen him in the Twitch chat. If he's there now, which maybe he is, he can tell us whether he won or lost his previous game. So Yeah, good one to end the day. And although we had one round that we had hoped to commentate that sort of vanished into the ether. It has been a lot of fun, Adam, heading into this last game. I'm sorry for. I hope it was just me that nearly had a heart attack when my computer just completely crapped out like 5 minutes before we were supposed to go live. But I feel that we've recovered and we got to watch Heidi win some really nice games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, obviously I was not aware of your computer having crashed. I got an email from you to that effect, but I wasn't there to see it happen.
All right.
Hello.
Heidi is in the control room. Nice work. That was a really well played game. Adam, do we have any questions for Heidi after this game?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe the big decision was maybe at the end of which bingo to play. We had various possibilities. I mean, I guess the one thing, yeah. So what happened was, and also Doncier versus let's say Sordine or Rosamond. We were not at all sure which play was better on that turn. So yeah, I mean, if you want to tell us what you were thinking at that point.
Exactly what you were thinking probably is like which one is better, which one's going to do the least damage if he plays there after, I don't know, I just try to get the most points, I guess. So putting my D on the double letter there. That's all.
Yeah, well, it is true that the winner of the game is the person who scores the more points. Can't underestimate the importance of taking the points you have them.
Yeah, it's
but did
scary.
you think the R was a scary letter to put there? Scarier than say D or whatever? Or?
Well, I think with both blanks, I mean, both blanks lurking, everything is scary, right, Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Scary doesn't mean wrong.
Yeah, right.
This is part of why I like to say that Scrabble teaches us some good lessons for life. There's no such thing as living your life without avoiding risks. But if you're going to take a risk, you should try to measure what is the bigger risk, and also you should try to take the risk that actually benefits you if your opponent doesn't have the thing that hurts you.
Right. Look at this. We're getting life lessons and Scrabble lessons. So amazing. From Adam Logan, World Champ.
That's it's an amazing thing.
Amazing.
But that was, so Doncier versus Sordine was, I think, more of a coin flip, but the final move of the game was really interesting. So walk us through that one. Were you thinking about picking your poison between the place where you played as well as the bottom row of the board with servo? How are you going through that? Also noting that you didn't have a ton of time left, and maybe you have to set up for what could be, if you don't have an outplay or something, maybe you have a trickier end game. I'm not sure. Maybe with 2 tiles coming, the end game isn't as salient. What were you thinking there?
Yeah, I was thinking that I wasn't too sure, like looking at the pool and not being sure if I tracked everything or not, like if there were possible bingos. And so I was just like, I thought he had an S. I would take out at least that S. I can put a V out and hope that it works out in my favor. But certainly not like a lot of depth, right? Like I'm just hoping there, really.
It did work out, Adam.
Yeah,
but so Adam had a really cool suggestion, which is that given the letters that were in the pool, and you mentioned that potentially if your tracking was not 100% accurate, it's hard to know this for sure. But the pool was like desktop and then another T and an I or something like that. And a lot of the bingos that fit on the board, at least whenever he has an S, a lot of them, like Dodiest and Pokiest, will play in 2 spots with bruvs going down. And the only way to really address that is to actually play down from the T with something like trendier or tenderer. And that actually obstructs the 7-letter bingos in both spots with a risk of opening up 8-letter bingos, of course, but actually with the tiles that were unseen, that was a significantly lower risk than the 7-letter words playing on top of there. So really tough situation.
The other thing I thought about was, what if I just play one tile, just in case? And then I was like, no, I can't, because he has S. What if he,
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I feel like in this position playing one tile is probably is not really going to mean you very much, because if Shafiq already has the bingo, then you're not going to win by playing one tile, since your bingo is just not scoring. So I don't really see the benefit of doing so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the last game of the day is going to be Josh.
I see Josh squaring, so maybe we'll let you get straight into round 8 and finish off the day strong with a great game.
Yeah.
Well, remember you beat him in Belleville, so you can do it again.
What's that?
I remember you beat him in Belleville, so you can do it again.
Okay, it's my turn.
I remember we had this crazy end game, as I remember, with you and Josh in Belleville, where somehow you stuck yourself in the sea, and then he had to step himself up so that he could step himself up. It was sort of a 2-layer setup where he makes one play that allows the second setup to give him place to play the G for 24 points or something silly like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so true.
That was a crazy one. I remember that one. So in any case, I have your record. We'll figure out when Josh's standings update, but don't worry about that. We'll let you get to the game if you hop out of the command center, and we'll catch up with you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, folks. So no time to solicit questions from the chat. I'm sure all of you out there, all you Heroin to Birds heads, have been having fun this afternoon, as we've seen her play 2 games, win them both, and potentially this would be an amazing one to win. He already beat Noah Slatkoff, who was in first place. Beating Noah and Josh in the same day, I would consider that a job well done for myself, Adam. I'm sure Heidi would feel
absolutely. Yes, me too.
So
I'll just take a break here, and then be ready for the game, I think.
Yeah, okay, so she's gotten up. I can't imagine we literally just had Josh sitting down. Adam's going to take the quickest break. I'll keep the stream warm during this time. Oh, I'll mute the background noise from the playing area. So yeah, Josh is there, clearly waiting to get started, just off camera. In a rarity for Josh, who is quite apt to stream his own POV here. Of course, this is the Heroin to Birds stream today. So it's been a very good afternoon for the good guys here, I should say. As we head into this final game. I think she just needed to take a quick break. So yeah, if she wins this game, she's gonna be well, in Twitch, we have a comment, ending the day at 500 is fantastic, but she would be able to do better than that with a win. She's already clinched a 500 record at this point with 4 wins, but a win against Josh would be a tremendous feather in her cap. So we will see. She's probably just taking a quick break. So yeah, that's this game is going to do it for us today. I believe that Matthew O'Connor and Sean Robertson are going to take, no relation, no T in that name, Robertson, not sure if I'm saying that wrong, but they will have the coverage tomorrow of the 7 games on day 2 of this event. And yeah, Adam, then it's on to Albany next week. I'm sure that we're all going to convene relatively early next week. Very exciting tournament to look forward to. Have you been doing, I mean, I haven't really been preparing in a special way for it. Have you been doing anything special, or just doing your normal preparation that you would do?
Just trying to keep up my normal study habits. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can absorb in a short period of time, and I think that it's better not to try, if I try to put too much new stuff in my card box, I'll just end up confusing myself at this point.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in
Yeah.
structuring your study to avoid cramming at
Yep.
any point. I just
Hmm.
don't, I really prefer the slow and steady approach and not necessarily
Yep.
feel like I have to study thousands of words in the weeks before a particular event. So
Right.
yeah, that's of course it's easier said than done, but it's always worked a little better for me. So I think Heidi's going first in this game. And ooh, wow. Okay. First blank, a great draw, the CFY combo. I don't feel like she's gonna have a bingo available from that, but this is still a really nice way to start the game, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, you have to spend, even though it looks a bit unlikely, you still have to spend a little bit of time trying to find a bingo with this rack because, if you can, and this kind of rack that Heidi has, in the middle of the game, you'd often have a 30 or 40 point play with it. You might have some high scoring plays for foy or cafe or whatever. But on the opening rack, if you don't have a bingo, then I don't know that you're doing anything more than 18. So if you missed a bingo on this rack, then you'd be costing yourself quite a bit. But I don't see one, and okay, I just checked it, and that in fact there isn't one. So yeah, it's definitely you want to take your time in this kind of bracket and make sure that you're not missing it. But once you've done that, I think that foy looks very good.
Yeah. Getting rid of your two 4-point tiles. You flip those scores around. Um, Saving ACE blank, which is quite likely to mature into a bingo, makes a lot of sense. I agree that it's always worth. I feel like the question I ask myself with racks like that is, if there was a bingo in here, what would it be? Because sometimes you have to at least entertain the idea that there is a bingo available to actually see it.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody could just tell you, hey, there is a bingo in this crazy looking rack, often you will find it quickly, and it's just the mere entertaining of the idea that gets you there. But meanwhile, uh-oh, oh boy. Oh, I don't have Burr on the board.
That
Okay,
looks
I was
great.
gonna say, what is
Oh,
she? Yeah, I put in her rack without putting in Burr. So I was like, wait, there's only one bingo and it's
oh, yeah.
Evocate. But of course, this is
Mm-hmm.
way better than that. Double double.
Yes,
There's
vast
no,
improvement.
I'm sure she's making this an M just to be absolutely sure. There's no need, especially because that would not take a S hook. And in fact, that is the only double double anyway. So great job, great start.
Yeah,
Now she's just got to hold this lead, Adam.
yeah. No, that's the perfect play. But at this stage of the game, especially in Collins, 98 point lead is not. You can't just coast. You have to still be scoring points and not trying to kill the board at this stage.
100%.
I mean, I remember. Yeah, some years ago, I mean, since the World Cup of soccer is going on, I'm reminded of. I remember reading some years ago a story about some game in which one of the teams took an early lead of 2 goals to nothing, and the newspaper reporters, but he had the team continue attacking, and so the newspaper reporters said, why did you do that? Why didn't you close the board? Close the board. Sorry, I'm thinking of Scrabble. Why didn't you just hang back and play defense? And so he said something like, "Nothing is more, you can't do that because there's nothing more dangerous than not taking any risks." And often the same is true in this game.
That is a great quote. I really like that quote. Of course, as you were saying in between rounds to Heidi, it is all about the calculated risk and pursuit of upside as well. A minimal risk that has a
Yep.
significant upside is usually worth pursuing, regardless of the game scenario, unless you really,
Mhm.
certainly, I would say at the beginning of the game, especially when the whole world of
Yep.
possibilities of how a game could unfold lie before you. That is the point where you cannot simply go into no risk mindset, because the game can proceed in so many different ways, many of which are good, many of
Mhm.
which are bad, but there's just too many ways to really process them all. And in any case, one of the bad things that can happen has somewhat happened, which is you take a big early lead and then you draw something clunky. And if Heidi gets into several racks in a row where she is not able to draw vowels, that would give Josh the opportunity to get right back in this. So she's going to struggle on her next move. I suppose the play that stands out through the O, if it stays open, would just be bronze right here. This does well to undouble her duplicated R's and N's and score at least something. But even then, Adam, you're vulnerable to consonant draws.
Yeah, well, there's no perfect solution. I mean, even if you decide to exchange 5, you could still draw 5 consonants. Again, but if if the board stays open, if that O stays open, which it may very well not, I think that you just have to take those 26 points and hope that you get something reasonable. Even if you have to trade next turn, so it goes.
Yeah, for sure. 26 is definitely enough to justify grabbing those points. There's nothing else even close. Of course, you don't love to use your Z for sort of an average scoring play, but that is actually kind of the virtue of a tile like the Z, is that, yeah, normally you want to score 40 or 50 points with it, but it is saving a terrible rack that you could otherwise not score more than maybe 12 or 16 points, and you're getting
Exactly.
26 out of it. So the Z is not just pumping up your scores into that, level that you expect, but it's turning your bad racks into something more palatable. And here we are going to see, this is so probably teaming, I would guess. Not sure what this is.
Could be teaming.
Yeah. So tiering, teaming, I think those are the likeliest. I'm sure he's making it an M, maybe an R, because it's a little tougher to overlap. Yeah, he's making it an R.
It looks like he's made it an R. Yep.
So that makes a little sense if you're super confident in both of those options. Teaming, and tiering, this makes it tougher to overlap the R with more specificity. But this is the exact danger scenario, right, Adam? 2 consonants at the base of the board, and Heidi literally has no palatable play in that area now.
Yeah, I mean, of course you can play GRR, but that's not a palatable play.
True.
No, I mean, yeah. So I mean, Heidi, obviously, with all these consonants, her eye is going to be drawn to any vowel that she can find, and in particular through the I, I'm sure that she will see the possibility of zinc. However, I would still prefer to play Ron's, given that zinc fails to undouble the R and creates another dangerous line on the triple with the hook of Zinco.
So rather than zinc, which is definitely scary, she's going to play mourn instead. So this does preserve the Z for later, which, of course, if you draw vowels, you may be very, very happy that you did that. But this does sacrifice 14 points over playing it now. And I also think CMNR, you can potentially get lucky with vowel draws and bingo a fair amount of the time when you draw 3 vowels. I don't think that's really ever happening after mourn unless you really, really get lucky. So
so that's less likely.
So okay, but either way, I wouldn't consider this to be a disastrous play of any type, and not a great draw there for her though. I guess it could be worse. She got a vowel, and
she got 1 vowel at least.
Yeah, but this is an opportunity for Josh to definitely retake some command of this game if he has a big play here.
Yeah, and it's worth noting before I forget that mourn takes not only the S that you expect, but also an E. M-O-R-N-E, I believe is an adjective. At least in French, it means something like gloomy or dismal. I think that's the definition in Collins too. Let me see.
Wow, I would have put an S on it, so that's scary to know that.
Oh no, okay, no. Apparently, I'm wrong. It does actually take an S. Apparently, it also means it's the same as M-O-U-R-N.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
So you're right.
Well, I guess we'll see whether that hook gets used. There's certainly, you could easily imagine good plays coming down here with a high scoring tile in this spot. So does Heidi know it? Does Josh know it? I feel like there is a good chance that we will figure out the answer to that question before the game is over, with a lot of ease still to come and plays in that spot potentially being lucrative. So we'll see. But for now, we wait. Josh has to, this gives a lot of information back to Josh. This play of mourn, I feel like almost any vowel. Oh yeah, gram, grim, grum, germ, and gorm. Right? So literally any vowel if Heidi had them. I guess you could consider, if you had a lot of ends, you could play Mourn instead, but I highly
Yeah.
doubt it. I feel like this is almost as a neon sign, Adam, to Josh. I don't have any vowels when I played this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there is also a possibility, I think, that Heidi would have done this as a fishing play if she were keeping, let's say, ERST.
True. That is definitely true. Ooh, is this going to be a follow-up bingo? Oh, man, the slow roll of that final tile.
Mhm.
Wow, very nice. Okay, so this is how early leads get, how they evaporate here. This is a nice overlap. That same word would have played through this N as well for more points as the board flips on me, but in a much more dangerous way. So I do think the 5-point sacrifice that Josh made here is justified. Very nice job by him. And I'm not even sure what, this doesn't really give anything back, which is part of the virtue of this play.
Yeah, I mean, Heidi does still have jizz through the eye of tearing.
Man,
that does not look like a word to me.
That is not a word, and Josh is quickly challenging
Josh
it.
is going to
So,
talk.
yeah, juror, this is going to come off. Tough break. She went to the well there. If this was valid, it would definitely be the best play by a fair margin. And juror is a word, Jure, but I think it's just a synonym for jurisprudence, and it is coming off.
That's right,
yeah, big swing here. So Josh gets another opportunity to cement his control over this one. So it's tough. It's tough. I feel like, what can you say, Adam? If she thinks it's a word, it's hard not to play it. But maybe going for a more sure bet.
It's not a word, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that in hindsight. Of course, sometimes people don't play things that are real words, and they say, well, they should have gone for it. It's not possible to be right about everything all the time.
Yeah, there is no proper, the only, unless I don't think anybody other than Nigel himself potentially is so solid on the words in the dictionary that you don't have this problem ahead of you. Namely, do I play it aggressively and never chicken out on words and just pay the price when I'm wrong? Or do I play it very conservatively and rarely do I lose a challenge to my opponent, but I often chicken out of words that would be better in certain situations. As Loxing, nice play here, is going to get a challenge as well, and it is valid in this case.
This one is valid, yes. It does not, when we not normally think of Lox as a verb, I think it has some meaning, like to supply with liquid oxygen, which no doubt in low temperature engineering is something that people do all the time, but I've never done it.
Yeah, we're all grateful to these very specialized areas of expertise where people develop these, the terminology that we're borrowing for this game. I'm certainly grateful for that. But yes, I guess locks and gox and a lot of these other words have sort of an oxygen. They call to mind oxygen somehow. Even oxo as an adjective, I think, has to do with it just means it contains oxygen. So.
That's right, yeah.
Well, back to the drawing board. Now it's time to come up with, I feel like there were no plays that were that interesting for Heidi through the G of tiering. So now she can basically play other candidate plays that she may have been considering previously. Looks like curing is on her mind instead of juring through that I, keeping ZJ, which certainly you're not bingoing with those tiles, but there is a rationale, I think, Adam, for keeping them, which is maybe you get a really solid 1-2 punch on your next couple turns. Maybe you can make a setup somewhere. It's not the worst idea.
Yeah, to me, it feels a little bit too slow. I mean, I don't really see any good spots for the J or the Z after such a play. One possibility, again, that I've already mentioned is to play Zinc. I mean, it's still very dangerous, of course, but now the score is very different, and Heidi has to take chances. And if she picks an O, she'd be setting herself up for Jour for 71 points. Now, of course, against that, you do have to weigh the risk that Josh is going to pound that spot.
For sure. So suggestion, Adam making zinc, which in a vacuum, you would say, sure, that looks great. You keep your only vowel. This does take the O is probably the most salient hook. Also, there's one Y, and of course the S's, which that is a lot of hooks when you add them all up. But are you at that desperation point where you need to make a play and hope to dodge all of that stuff on Josh's rack and put him in a real bind? If he doesn't have any of those tiles, there is very, very little he can do about that hook or that spot productively. So it does. You may regret it a lot of the time, but in the cases where he doesn't have those hooks, you put enormous pressure on him, which is worth something.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the saner approach, not so desperate at this point, would be just to play Jizz. But on the other hand, what are you going to do with CG and or U on your next turn?
Yeah, for sure. That's not great either. I guess you can hope for like EE or EY and play urgency or something like that. I think urgence is a word.
Yeah, urgence is a
So
word, yes, or
I mean,
congru.
congru. Yeah, maybe there's a way to get lucky after those options. But yeah, I mean, it is 38 points. It's nothing to sneeze at. You have some chance of getting a bingo. You're going to need to get pretty lucky. Looks like Heidi is thinking about playing Zhu up top, which is the fourth option on the list here. So it's not completely far removed from one of the top equity plays. Gets rid of the J, and maybe she's going to try to play through that G and open up a big quadrant of space that wasn't that open previously.
Yeah, like if, for example, on her next turn, Heidi plays Zig, that would create an S hook that is almost impossible to deal with if there's no S. And also, there are certainly chances for drawing something through the eye of tearing. So yeah, I mean, I can certainly see the merit of this play.
The other funny thing about it is that it keeps all the letters of zinc, the other play we've been thinking of. So if she happens to draw something like OS, right, like something that could slightly tip the scales in favor of these are hooks that I have that my opponent does not, then maybe you go back to that well on a subsequent turn. Not sure if that's something she's thinking about here, but no I for Zig, no A for Zag. She's going to not really have that good of a play to that G, I wouldn't think, but she's got a cool option of
she has
hence through this N, which scores 51, leaving the Z. That's not bad. You're kind of hoping that Josh doesn't have anything good in the interim, but the combo of a 51-point play holding the Z, that gets you a little closer.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be very nice for Heidi if that remains available.
We'll see. Again, we wait for Josh. Josh stunning the heroine to birds fans with entwined immediately after his blank bingo. It's interesting. I feel like another fun thing. Oh, he's going to block that spot too. See what he plays. Just tune. Oh, just ton? He must be slow rolling.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
There we
go.
Well, tunas. What a okay, Adam. What do we read into this one?
Okay, so surely he must have another S because you could play, for example, AUE. And okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say something like AST.
It really looks like a play when your opponent makes a play like that looks a little bit of a head scratcher. The first, I wouldn't say, this isn't like every time, but the first thing to consider is he probably had a lot of duplicates, which is exactly what you're suggesting with AST as a leave. That would mean that this play unduplicated several sets of duplicated tiles. And that really makes it look like a logical play from those letters. The first thing to hone in on is this really looks almost certainly like there should be another S on Josh's rack after this. So you got to be careful with that knowledge. But Adam, I'm going to put up the analyzer here. Check this out. Look look at that
yeah.
top equity play. Wow.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And by the way, sorry, just to correct myself a little bit, it can't have been AST because that would have given Josh statuas.
Oh,
But
true.
something like that. So I've asked Magpie what it thinks Josh is most likely to have kept, and its top few, no, all of its choices, not surprisingly, include an S. It's saying things like AOS, ADS, ARS, IST. So yeah, I mean, certainly you would infer that Josh kept an S, and I would still think probably a duplicate of something because it is, it's not considering fishing places as much as it might. So, but anyway, regardless of what you infer, I think if you see he's in, you have to play it.
Yeah. All of those suggested leaves make a ton of sense. And by the way, what a cool feature of our new engines that they can sort of spit out the likeliest tiles. Okay, so we're not going to see his N in that spot for 64, which would have left CER. Really nice balanced bingo leave. But this is a pretty good consolation prize for 49 points. Riz, the leave isn't quite as bingo prone. The CH combination is good, but you would be getting 15 more points for his end. And I guess opening up a triple lane that Josh has to at least think about. So this is definitely the silver medalist in my mind. Still pretty good.
Yep.
And
it is the silver medalist, though.
Yeah, Henneck. She's probably thinking about Henpeck. It's not to be here. So the score is reasonably close. This is if I'm Josh and I don't have a bingo right now, I at least have to, continue to watch my back here. And also, Adam, you can, with that CH combination, you have potential possibilities here, which could be kind of scary.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, like if Heidi were to play hen, okay, probably it would end up getting blocked by Josh using the triple, but it does keep a very plausible leave and score quite well. But again, a lot will depend on what Josh does, as is usually the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. Can he
okay,
ever?
I think she's shown us impact.
Yeah, right. I think so. You're right, though, that plays like hen here are going to get blocked by any balanced 5-tile rack. Excuse me. I do think that Josh will probably read a play up there as some, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a play you're making because this is the best scoring spot for the H, but you have to at least worry about your opponent setting up a C after a play like that. So you would expect blocks to come down more of the time than usual. So yeah, I guess we'll see. We shall see. But game is still close. Blanks are accounted for. S's, we've seen one with a strong expectation that Josh already has at least one more on his rack. And just dog. Okay, well, now you can play hen without worrying that a block is going to be bad. But this worries me to see this be played, Adam.
Yeah, no, that's very scary, but it's going to be tough to do very much about it. I mean, the fact that Josh would make a play like that, setting up such an easy bingo line when he's already almost a bingo ahead is, as you say, is extremely ominous. In this kind of position, my usual reaction is to say, well, if you got the bingo, there's not much I can do about it. But why should my opponent make all of his fishes? That's not what I do.
Good
maybe
point. That's a great quote.
Maybe,
I love that. I'm going to use that my own mental deliberations for sure. I like that.
I mean, so looking at what Heidi could do here, I mean, I guess she could play hence with Doge. That would block some bingos, but I mean, anything that ended with an E is still going to go under FE or above Loxing. And a lot of bingos ending with an S rather will still play again in one place or another. There's the D to worry about, and there are the hooks, the T front hook on hens. You're giving that wide open E. I'm not really convinced that this is much of a defensive play. I think I might infer that from this that if I play hen, that Josh isn't going to be, assuming that Josh doesn't have a bingo, that he's not going to be able to hurt me very much in the top right.
So Ken at the base of the board, which is, if I put up the analyzer, you can see it is not
Yeah.
that far behind, and keeping CH is very likely to
Mhm.
lead to more bingos than keeping the K in various you know. This also sets up Sken, if that's something where she wants there to be
Yeah.
another S hook on the board. I think I'm probably still playing hen just for points, but this is a very reasonable
Yeah.
choice. So
Yeah. Everything
yeah.
all counts.
Oh, look at that draw. No R to save her here. Oh, look at that. Josh is going to
Oh,
continue to, he must have drawn a W. Nice play
yeah.
by
I
him
can't
there.
possibly have played lucky Kelly. Yeah. Nice fit in there. Yeah.
So Josh playing DAW for 26, but this is exactly what you sort of laid out, Adam, of I have to hope that after this play that Josh just made, I can just dodge him hitting bingos a couple more turns and get there first. I might still have a chance
Mhm.
at this, and you just have to have that mindset. It is kind of your win condition here if you're Heidi.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, um, again, Josh did just play 3 tiles. He probably kept 4 good ones, but again, you just have to hope that he didn't get something because there's only so much of this board that you can block. Especially now that you created that second S hook at the bottom. So what are we looking at here? I guess maybe CHAVE hooking onto Doge,
Yeah, I think
or
she
if
had that considered.
yeah, or I mean, if you know the hook on Morn, then you could play Have or Cave down there. But I mean that the right hand column looks very dangerous. Of course, if you're me, you maybe think that Morn doesn't take any hooks, but you know, sitting at the computer now, we know that this is not actually true.
She sees that she could, she wishes that she had an R here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not
Sad
to
moment.
be, R. I guess it's not, it's her turn, so it's not possible to get one. For a second, I was thinking about this previous play of draw, and I forgot that you're
Mhm.
actually playing through the R. So I was thinking to myself, well, maybe Josh
Mm.
could have played his R somewhere that gave her that, but there was no R. So I got to correct myself on that. But it is interesting if you know the Morn hook, this does invite pretty scary volatility, including Morn actually takes a D. As you said, it's a synonym of Morn with
Yes,
a
indeed.
U in it. So Josh has just played one D and then another, which maybe slightly increases the odds that he has the last of the 4. That's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's not the easiest hook to be confident in either. So maybe you can get away with it. This is the sort of thing that you will not have to worry about next week against Nigel.
Well, yeah, at least I won't have to think about whether he will be finding the right hooks or will know them. But,
Okay, just HE here. So this has some things to recommend it. The main drawback, of course, is keeping the CV, and in particular the V. I feel like most of your
yeah,
good options here are going to involve getting rid of that V. That is the main drawback here, Adam.
yeah. I mean, I still feel like Chav is was the play there. I mean, not having checked on the computer, but that's my guess.
Yeah, it's certainly the less crazy option compared to the plays making Morn, which invite a huge
Mhm.
amount of risk. Playing something here gives you a better chance of drawing one of the S's that are still lurking unseen to you without
Right.
incurring that crazy. I mean, it's worth noting too. A play like, I guess you could play Cave, which would be much safer, but a play like Have invites huge overlaps down here, even ones that don't hit Morn. But again, we know Josh
Mhm.
has another S after Tunas that he hasn't revealed yet. So all he would need is pretty much
Mhm.
any combination of vowel, consonant, vowel, S, and Diva, Devi, and
Yeah, so many
Devo
hooks on.
are
Yeah,
all valid. So you're just going to get crushed after that a lot of the time. So I'm agreeing
yeah,
with you
exactly.
that Chav with the E at the end and Doge seems like a reasonable way to go here. Let's see if Heidi can figure out a way to bingo with the CV combination. And I think she's likely looking at another balancing play here, hoping Josh does
Mhm.
not bingo in the interim.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to keep hoping that Josh doesn't get Doesn't get a bingo.
So I have the unseen tiles updated now from Heidi's POV. I don't really have a strong feeling about this set of unseen tiles, Adam. It looks kind of mediocre, not great, not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Josh's tiles selection of them is by no means random, as he'd be still in front of the S from Tunis. Okay, and Josh is going to block the triple with Paisa, when Heidi's going to give him an extra 5 points for it.
Oh, did she challenge? Okay. 28 points for the play, face value, and getting an additional 5 as this is a valid play. I mean, that could have been worse, right? Again, that could have been a bingo.
Oh, yes.
And it could have hit much harder than that. So, again, still hope here in this game. I certainly feel like I would want to see the V be played now, somewhere or other.
Yes.
Not sure where, but I think that needs to be the top priority, wherever she decides to play.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few plays that come to mind here. And one play would be to play Nove and Doge, which, I mean, CA it's okay. It's not wonderful or anything, but it does, as you say, it gets rid of the V. Another play might be Kava hooking a buy, which, okay, I guess you're keeping E and O, which is not really all that wonderful.
It's tough. I mean, you could play save here.
Could play save, yes, indeed.
If you know this. This isn't quite, I mean, this is still quite risky. I would continue to think that Josh is likely to have another S after playing one. I feel like there were likely ways that he could have avoided using the S if he needed to. So you could play save, but you would be risking getting hit with another high scoring play. And that is a going concern for Heidi here, to try and make sure that your eventual bingo actually matters, which you will not be able to do if you give your opponent another 30, 40, maybe a 40 or 50 point scoring play. Your eventual bingo is not really going to make the dent that you need it to. So, I don't know.
Exactly right.
Nove, I feel like that's jumping out to me as like a uninspiring play. But if I'm making this play, what I'm thinking of is I want to hit this D. Yes, you are using your E when you play Nove, but I either want to hit this D or hit Sken, one of these two things, and then probably get a second bingo down after that. But you do have options if you play Nove.
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of the board that's open. And I don't know, I mean, Kava does leave the extra line hooking onto dog, whereas the line ending in, okay, you're not really blocking, I guess you're blocking bingos that end in A, but those are not very likely. I mean, the other issue that maybe you have to start thinking about at this point is, as you were saying, you not only need to play bingo, but also to win the game after doing so. And bingo having a C in it might score more than one that doesn't. So there's a lot to think about here, and it's not at all clear to me what the correct choice is. We should also be thinking about the possibility, and maybe I think it's premature, but we should think for later about the possibility of doing something hooking Riza. This, I think, is not going to be a successful play.
So this is going to get challenged as well if she goes with it. And there you see the button press. Josh is not letting that stay. It's going to come off. So pre-Kava and words that have to do with veins, like the whatever. It's funny because I feel
Post-Kava.
Post-Kava. I think there are, I remember from my biology classes, the vena cava, right? Like these are I don't know why this isn't necessarily a word, because pre-cavi and post-cavi with the E at the end are both valid. But I think cava is just a wine, if I'm not mistaken, or something.
I believe it's a wine cellar.
Oh, wine cellar. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same word as cave in English, right?
Yeah, so it's going to get challenged. That's a tough one. I feel like that was a reasonable phony to come up with, but Josh is
Yeah.
definitely not having it. And Troilus, that is going to effectively end this one, I would think, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, of course, even if Heidi had made a valid play, it's rather unlikely that she would have obstructed the spot to play Troilus together with Sken. So I think at this point, and I guess even if somehow she had done so, Josh would still have had Risoluto to the O of Dog. So I think that at this point the game is pretty much over, unfortunately.
Good point. Risoluto would have just been icing on the cake there. I guess maybe you get a triple through that every so often, but not in this particular case. And yeah, that's going to do it almost certainly, barring something really crazy in this game. Tough one. Heidi's going to play just Crave here. She might be feeling a little bit demoralized by this. There are a couple other plays through the T that might have scored a bit better, but easy to be disheartened
would
here.
be nice. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like even if Heidi plays Centavo, she still needs 2 more bingos, which looks extremely unlikely.
Yeah, Centavo.
Octave probably to keep a bit more time.
Adam pointing out Octave as well. These are plays that look pretty good. Is Josh going to be bingoing again? No, just Beige, but he plays it quickly.
Yeah, it just chews up. Yeah, it's chewing up the time and the space that is remaining to Heidi. Now there is really no chance.
Yeah, for sure. Beige is one of those words where if you have those letters on the rack, it is often going to be a very solid play. The thing that's nice about this is that it also really obstructs a lot, as you say, chewing up the space on the board. But if you just look and actually see with the same letters, Josh could have played Jibe right here for 40, but Beige not only blocking both of the 7s lane alongside Crave that Heidi just opened up, but also Jibe would have done this as well. But Beige also not conclusively, but very strongly blocking the S of Sken. So very nice play by Josh, as you say, Adam, to burn up a lot of space.
Yeah, it's very appropriate for the situation to be Beige.
So now down by quite a bit. Oh, my analyzer is still covering me. I had to make a choice. Who should the analyzer cover? Me or you? And then I remembered you're the world Scrabble champion, so we will cover myself up and let you shine through the broadcast while we're showing the candidate plays on Google. So that was my decision. So
I'm not sure that's much of a reason, but
well, that is what went through my head. So yeah, it is a great privilege to get to commentate with you, Adam. It has been very enjoyable. This last game, of course, we're rooting for Heidi here, has not gone in her direction, but she had 2 really, really nice games earlier on against Noah and Shafiq. So that was a real treat to see her playing well.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we weren't able to see the game against Jason, considering how close it was. I don't know whether it was close all the way, but it would have been nice if we could have seen that one too.
Yeah, an 8-point win, a close one. So that would have been very, very close. And you mentioned earlier that apparently in the, put this under the, label of I wish every game were annotated. Apparently Josh lost by 1 point in one of his earlier games. Always fun to see games go down to the wire like that. So that was really cool from Causeway. I know you were not at the Causeway Challenge, instead attending the Australian National Championship, which you also won. I certainly had a little bit of FOMO from the Causeway Challenge this year, but getting to follow along a huge number of annotated games and just see a lot of the action, even the games that were not on the stream, was really cool. I know that took a cast of, many people to pull that off, but it would be great to see that become more standard, I feel, for at least for our biggest and brightest events.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful to be able to follow the Causeway to the extent that we were able to from the other side of the world, and I really want to go to the next one.
Yeah, 2028. I definitely will be trying to make that happen. I don't really think there's a reason I wouldn't be able to. This year just coincided with a little bit of other travel for me. And obviously you had your travel, your huge trip already on the books. to Australia. How did that tournament go for you? Obviously, you won, and against the likes of David Eldar, no less. But how did that trip go for you?
Well, it was lots of fun. I mean, I didn't go all the way there just to play in the Australian Championship. I was there for, to further my mathematical researches as well. There was a mathematician I know who's, he's American, but he moved to Sydney a couple of years ago. And so I spent a few weeks visiting him. And, then I had the rare privilege to travel to Tahiti for work.
Nice.
I did that on the way back. So anyway, I was away for basically slightly over a month, and then I just thought that followed by the trip halfway around the world again to Thailand was just too much.
That makes a lot of sense. That is a lot. That sounds pretty crazy. I myself had traveled the very next week after Causeway to Barcelona, Spain. So I felt that also would just be a bit much. But I think the stars will likely align next year. It should be doable, and it looked amazing. So sounds like you can add the two of us to the list of what will surely be in another completely insane field of amazing players. And yeah, we just have to keep as we were discussing, try to study a few words a day every day from now till then.
Words a day.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Just want to point out here that Heidi would have a really nice play if one of those E's were an A. Oh, well, okay, Josh has just blocked it, but even so.
With one of the E's were
unfortunately, if one of the E's were an A, and if Josh had not just blocked it, Heidi would have had a really nice play.
I'm still looking. Would it be? I don't know. I don't see it yet. Is it something long?
Yeah, and it's a 9, but it's one that is probably familiar to a lot of the audience.
All right, I'll keep thinking about that as Josh re-paralleling with fair on top. I think I committed a Lou, and then Heidi went back, and thankfully she played it, or not forcing me to go back and change the play that I had inputted. So that would have caused. Okay, so let me see. So exchanging one of the E's on her rack for an A would have had. I'm looking through II. Oh my God, histamine or thiamine? Histamine, double. Oh my God, that would have been insane. And actually, I'm kind of grateful that she did not have that, or else Josh's play would have been devastating.
Yes, indeed.
That would have been sad. Histamine, double. Oh wait, no. Yes, wait.
Yes, double.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be a legendary play. It is a double. Wow. Nice spot there. In any case, in the actual case of the game, no histamine, not even blocked. Only a few tiles in the bag, 3 tiles, it looks like, in the bag. So if she wants to try, and she probably does, to get a final bingo to polish the game off, she does not want to use any more than 3 tiles here. And I guess a reasonable option for her would just be to play in the upper corner. It blocks this lane a little bit, but it leaves enough space, especially this D, that maybe you could still get a bingo down if you draw well enough.
Yeah, quite possible. So it looks like Heidi is playing Hem, which definitely sets up aggressively on the left-hand column. I mean, she has them, but there, 3 tiles in the bag, there are still an A and a T left. So the chance that Josh has at least one of those is very high. On the other hand, it's certainly possible with this strong lead that Heidi's keeping that she could draw a bingo, both hooking Hem and another one using the T, or playing from the A.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an aggressive play. Oh, look at that. Oh, man. So the Q comes, the cherry on top of what has turned into a frustrating game for her. She's going to look back at, of course, the 2 plays, the 2 phonies that she played, and wonder what could have been had she not done that. But things were already when she played that first one, I think the score was already something like 100 and I don't know, it was like 176 to 128. So still very much retrievable, but
Yeah,
things
it
got
was
out of
hopeless at
hand
that point.
very quickly from that point.
Yeah, that's right. And, if she had not played the first pony with During, then who's to say what would have happened? It would certainly have been better for her, but there's certainly no guarantee that she would have won the game.
So belatedly, I'm looking at the standings and seeing that Josh and Heidi are both 4-3 going into this game. As we see Pulau come down, that looks like so. Josh, of course, if he has either the A or the T, as you pointed out, the odds were very, very good of him having at least one of those two. Would have been a very, very lucky pull for Heidi to draw into a bag containing both A and T. It's not impossible. But Josh with the A playing Pulau, and I'm sure he's hoping to not draw the Q, but he.
Well, the bag is empty at this point.
Oh, right. 3 in the bag. Fair. Yeah, sorry. Great point.
So Josh's play of Pulau has an interesting point to it, which is that Heidi might want to play QI and S at the bottom left, hooking Fen and Els. But if she does that, she concedes a large score to Josh for
really cool. Nice. So that's a great point. So Adam is pointing out very wisely that with the Q on the rack, her best play is very likely to be down there. And if she plays it, Josh keeping ID, and it may well still be. Now, I feel like that's too many points. I think she has to pivot to a play like this,
yes.
right? This seems like it's going to be better.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if she is invested in the game, she'll probably be able to put that together. If she is just looking to, it's also round 8. Sorry, I have had that wrong the entire time. So sorry, everybody. It's not round 7. It's actually round 8. I apologize for that. So this is the final round of the day. And Adam, I would say it's especially tough sometimes. Oh, she is going to do it. Nice. Well, maybe put the N in there too,
nice,
but
of course.
this
the
is the right idea. Yeah, it's the right idea.
Yeah, no, this is definitely worth sacrificing points rather than playing at the bottom left. But you're absolutely right though in your larger point. That at the end of the day, especially when you're 150 or 170 points behind, it's hard to force yourself to make the best plays. You just want to get back to, well, in this case, get back home for Heidi, or in other tournaments, maybe get back to your hotel room.
I think Josh is pointing out. I just see Josh pointing in this area. He's probably saying something to that effect, what he was hoping to happen. But this is like we were talking at the outset of the broadcast that, and we were just mentioning how cool it was to follow along with Causeway. This is the crazy thing about the Nigel endgame statistic of the fact that he played 20 perfect endgames without losing a single point of equity at Causeway. It's not that this endgame was so like Heidi had the right idea. This is the right idea, but it's so easy to have the right idea, but not the absolute perfect execution of that idea. It's really, really easy to make a 1 or 2 point equity mistake in the end game, which this is. This is like really close to the optimal end game, but it is not the optimal end game. And to get them right every time requires not just great calculation, but also just a level of focus and stamina that is very rare, I would say. So in any case,
absolutely.
We see the final play of id for 13. No challenge on that, of course. And that's going to do it for game 8 of the day, 5:05 to 3:34. Tough one for Heidi, but overall, it's been a rewarding afternoon, with the exception of the unplanned bye for us to enjoy, Adam.
Yeah, no, it's been a really good session with all these very nice games.
All right. I'm going to turn on the local audio. Let's see what I don't think you'll be able to hear it, but the stream will be able to. So let's see.
Do you want me to join or not?
Yeah, you can. Problem with camera. Fine. Disable
Oh,
camera.
she's joining the room now. I think she's joining now. So
Why?
I'll mute her, and then she's going to come into the commentary room. I think she's working on it right now, as Josh maybe is going to help her.
Oh yeah.
So we'll get a quick. Okay, here she is, and Josh. Well, look,
No.
if those words were valid, they would have been the best plays, at least during. But yeah, it's tough. Nice win for you, Josh. That was a good game. He's smirking, but
doing a good job at making the games less sad.
What does that mean?
Well, I just don't like when you're sad in the middle of a game. Like, at least if I'm
Well, of
beating
course
you,
I'm
I
gonna-
should be entertaining
Of course,
you.
I'm gonna be sad if I freaking pony twice in the same game.
Yeah.
And then challenge
Anyways.
like 3 words that everybody should know.
No, but Heidi was doing a great job coming back there after Loxing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. So if we look into some of those plays where you were, Josh, I feel like you were one bingo draw away, and we were basically from the Heidi POV. We were thinking like, man, we need you to somehow not hit, even
Yeah.
though you are definitely going to be very close after a play like
Well, the
Tuna's.
thing is, yeah, I didn't have an E, so like I was trying to get an
Mhm.
E. If I'd drawn an E, I would have been good. But I
Mhm.
was my racks weren't great. I was not happy with my plays. But yeah, she did a great job fighting and keeping up the scoring pressure.
Till after a certain
And then
point. when I'm
cave.
like,
I mean,
yeah,
you're thinking of there's words like that pre-cave.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or one of them. No, one of them is not good.
I mean, it's just this one.
Post-cave.
Post cave is also good. So
Yeah.
anything having to do with veins, like the blood vessels, seems to take an E.
Oh no,
and
they're all good in Collins, right? Yeah. Like the AL
Yeah, okay,
are also good.
well,
Post cava takes an S. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
big cava doesn't.
oh, the S hook. That's the one that
That's
does
the
not
one. Yeah,
go.
but you're
both.
thinking of
Yeah.
post and pre. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just that kava
Yeah.
wasn't a word before those were words.
Yeah.
So it means it's a different thing. That's all.
Yeah, reasonable try for sure. Was there any other like early game position worth asking about, Adam, for either player?
With Josh, it's hard to tell because, of course, you don't know his racks. I mean, overcame was absolutely correct, of course.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, just Morn maybe. Did you think about Ron's Heidi in that situation? I mean, this is like.
So this is my greed.
Oh,
getting
you
the
had
better
the
of
Z the whole
me.
time. Very nice.
So
Very
I
nice.
was like,
yeah, this episode. Yeah.
Yes, I thought of Ron's, but at that time, I just was like, if I can just fucking draw a vowel or two, I'm like gonna hit something big in there maybe. But yeah, I don't know. It's just greediness. I should have just played.
No, when in doubt, keep the Z. That's a good rule.
Well, that's what I thought. You're supposed to try and
Yeah, that is
hang
valid.
on to it. So.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that to suggest it was a mistake, only to ask whether you had considered it, which it's not very clear. So in any case, Heidi finishes 4-4. Josh finishes 5-3. You all have 7 rounds more tomorrow, so still lots to play for. Heidi beat Noah Slatkoff,
6? I think 6.
Jason off of stream, and Shafiq on stream. So wins against very strong players.
Oh, I saw the end of your Shafiq game. Yeah, you made a great play, vendors. Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. Do you have any thoughts for, hey, anyone in the chat wants to communicate to either one of you, now is the time, but do you have any thoughts to share with the streaming audience that you're here?
I thanks everybody for watching. I really felt bad about Jason not wanting to be on stream for the second game because we only got like a few games, and then we're gonna have to lose out on one of them, and I had to buy this morning. Games this morning with stream anyway. Yeah, I just felt
Will and Adam.
crazy.
Carrie says hi.
Hi.
Do you have anything to say to the
Hello.
chat?
Not really.
But yeah, I
Okay.
just always feel like
Wow.
at some point when I just fall apart, right? So like that first game, even though it wasn't streamed this morning, my first game, I just completely fell apart and I went over time by 2 minutes. And if I'd only gone over time by 1 minute, I would have won. So like, this is how brutal I am.
Ouch. That's painful.
But when my brain decides it's not going to work anymore, it just doesn't work. I just freeze. Like, I don't know. It's brutal.
Well, if
Brutal.
Scrabble were easy, it wouldn't be fun. And it's tough. There are a million ways a Scrabble game can go wrong. That's part of what makes the drama of watching the game. I know that's not fun, but we appreciate you putting yourself in that position where if you make a mistake, we are not, we're commiserating, right? This is very relatable. Not a one of us has, gone through all of our games on stream and not made any mistakes, but you played really well this afternoon, so you should definitely hold your head high. And yeah,
I
I
blew an
don't know.
game today too.
Oh, was that the one where you lost by 1, Josh?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No.
Yeah, for 9 minutes, I thought my opponent had 5 tiles, even though that didn't make sense. And then for 30 seconds, I realized she had 4, and it wasn't enough to recuperate.
Oh, brother. See, Scrabble can be a house of horrors on like this sometimes. So let that be. Hey, is that not the most compelling sales pitch to all of you out there? If you're not a tournament player, come join us and enjoy the huge
And be human with us.
damage that you will incur by playing this game. No, I'm just kidding. It's so fun. It is a lot of fun. When things go great, there's no game better than Scrabble.
I was going to ask what you guys talked about for the whole hour that I was not here.
Well,
They were worried.
There was a limit to how much time we could. So basically, rather than have us sort of sit there on call for the full hour, we just took a break and I tried to figure out what was going on because I wasn't really sure what was going on.
Oh, you didn't know.
So yeah, but in any case, we got back with that nice win with Shafiq.
I thought you would just sit there and promo all the cool things upcoming and talk about Adam's wins and all of these crazy things.
We definitely got into some of the cool Adam related topics, talking about the match upcoming, Australian Nationals, World Championship, all of those things. But yeah.
Anyway, super thrilled to have you guys today. Thank you so much. I wish there would have been all 4 games this afternoon. But
thank you, Adam, for gracing us with your commentary again, and Will, of course, for just producing so many awesome streams for people.
Oh, it is
no. This is all my face.
It's my pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
My face
so yeah, with that, I think we'll let the two of you end your days, and I will say a quick final thank you to you, Adam. Thank you very much for your patience with the production issues and whatnot, and it was a real pleasure to commentate with you.
Me too.
And with that, I think we're going to call it a stream, and we'll be back tomorrow with Matthew O'Connor and Sean Robertson, bringing you home with the 7 day 2 games from the Canada Day tournament. Yeah, I believe it is. So,
really?
I think it's 6. I think it's 6.
6. Yes. 8 plus 6 is 14. I know that. Okay, so 6. All right, everybody.
Good thing we have a mathematician in the room. Mathematician, as I like to call him.
Mathematician.
Any final thoughts, Heidi, from you?
No, I just want to thank everybody who's watching, who's here. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And yeah, come back again tomorrow, please. Love you guys.
All right.
And I'll see you in
everybody. Yes. I'll see everyone in Albany. Take care. See you, everybody.